Chapter 109. Yi Huanyan only felt that her body was as heavy as a lead weight. After her dress was soaked, the weight increased and she kept sinking. She couldn't use any of her swimming skills. In her panic, she had already gulped down several mouthfuls of water. She heard screams and shouts. Her body seemed to have been pushed by someone under the water. Her toes touched the bottom of the pool. After struggling a few times, she staggered to stand firm. The pool wasn't deep. The water level only reached Yi Huanyan's waist. As soon as she stood firm, she heard a lot of noise. There was laughter and discussion. She wiped her face and forced herself to open her eyes. There were many people standing by the pool. They were looking at her with different expressions. Like monkeys in a zoo, they gave out sympathetic, shocked, erotic, or shy gazes. She followed those people's gazes and lowered her head. The white dress clung to her body and was soaked in water. The two symmetrical flesh-colored breast pads on her left and right were very obvious. In an instant, there was a roar in her head. She suddenly covered her chest and squatted in the water. Her eyebrows drooped, and she bit her lips tightly. She did not dare to raise her head, but the constant laughter and discussions entered her head from the corner of her eyes. It was as if she had stepped into a minefield, and all kinds of explosions kept happening. Until her ears couldn't hear anything. There was only a buzzing sound left. Isn't that Secretary Yi? How did she fall in such a big place? What do you mean fall in? She's wearing this kind of dress by the pool. She did it on purpose, right? It was unknown who whistled. Those men who hadn't reacted before seemed to release their natural instincts. They followed along and laughed. Some people even threw balloons into the pool. Some people even directly jumped into the water and swam past Yi Huanyan. However, no one wanted to help her. Those ambiguous gazes, those mocking and ridiculing faces, those adding insult to injury, pushed the atmosphere of the pool party to a climax. She squatted in the water and slowly walked to the edge. The heavy dress made it difficult for her to take a step. She even felt that the dress was so heavy that it was about to fall from her chest. She had to free one hand to hold the dress. She gritted her teeth, refusing to let her tears fall. However, when she reached the shore, those people were still looking at her. The white gauze on her body was no different from being naked. She gritted her teeth and her eyes reddened. When she looked up, she saw a familiar figure standing in the corner. Ling Han's eyes swept over her as if he didn't see her. He took the wine glass from Shang Anren's hand and smiled. She turned her head with a pained look in her eyes. For a moment, she even thought that if the pool was deep enough, it would be good to drown here. "Miss?" The hotel waiter hurried over, squatted by the pool, and extended his hand to her. He handed her a black suit jacket and said a bunch of English, but she didn't understand at all. At this moment, the jacket was her last hope. She hugged the jacket and put it on in the water. She did her best to fasten every button and then climbed out of the water with the help of the waiter. He was in an extremely sorry state. Standing by the pool, the large men's suit was like a broken sack on her body. A pair of slender legs were clinging to the white gauze, which was faintly discernible and seductive. The sound of whistling became more and more jubilant. She grabbed the hem of the jacket and lifted the wet skirt. She gritted her teeth and glanced at the corner, but she didn't get any response. The noise around her seemed to have nothing to do with her. Whether it was the laughter, the whistling, or the manic sound of someone suddenly turning on the sound system, they were all like the liveliness of another parallel world, gradually drifting away from her. She couldn't avoid the party that was reaching its climax. She ran back to the hotel barefoot with her last strength. As soon as she returned to the room, she closed the door and burst into tears. In his eyes, she was just a woman who could be played with. So even if she was in such a mess, it was not a big deal in his eyes. In the corner of the party, Shang Anren retracted his gaze from the direction where Yi Huanyan had just disappeared and said jokingly, "Secretary Ye's figure is really good. Thanks to her, this party is much livelier now." As soon as his voice fell, he looked up and met Ling Han's cold eyes. He held a wine glass and stared at the male artists who took the lead in whistling. He raised his head and drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. Her eyes were slightly sluggish, and her chest tightened for no reason. Ling Han looked at her with an indifference that had never been seen before. "It was your people who pushed Secretary Yi into the water, right?" Her face suddenly froze. She secretly pinched her thigh and forced herself to make a puzzled expression. She frowned and said, Who pushed Secretary Yi into the water?" Ling Han sneered, "Your way of doing things is too low. I don't care about those people in the past, but don't go too far with the people around me. She is my secretary. You humiliated her like this. Are you planning to slap my face?" "Han, that's not what I meant. Today's party is boring. I'll go back first. You can continue to play." He put down the wine glass, glanced at her, and left resolutely. Shang Anren's eyes froze, and he didn't come back to his senses for a long time. In the past, he could turn a blind eye to so many things. Why couldn't Yi Huanyan? Or was it that Ling Han really treated Yi Huanyan differently? A trace of viciousness flashed in her eyes. Yi Huanyan had to be on guard against this. When he walked to the door of Yi Huanyan's room, the waiter was still waiting at the door. When he saw Ling Han, he stood aside respectfully. "Mr. Ling, according to your instructions, I sent Miss Yi back. No one came to look for her. Can we go now?" Ling Han was about to nod when he suddenly thought of something and glanced at the closed door. "Before you leave, ask her to open the door. Tell her that you have something to do with her." The waiter was slightly stunned, but he didn't ask. He knocked on the door as instructed. The sleeve of the suit was exposed through the crack of the door. Yi Huanyan's hand was hidden in the sleeve. At this time, she was holding the door frame through the sleeve of the suit. She stared at the waiter through the crack of the door. The tears on her face hadn't dried yet. Her voice was a little choked, and her poor English was even more grammatical at the moment. "I'll wash the suit and return it to you. Leave me your number." "Who do you want to return it to?" At the moment Yi Huanyan closed the door, his knee pressed against the door panel. The waiter looked at the strange posture of the two people, suddenly lowered his head, and tactfully turned around to leave. "Open the door before I speak properly." One of Yi Huanyan's eyes was exposed through the crack of the door. "President Ling, I'm not feeling well now. Please let me rest first." "What? Do you feel that you just showed off your skills at the party, and now you want to be alone in the room to reflect on the admiring eyes of those men?" He suddenly exerted his strength, and there was a muffled groan in the room. Ling Han pushed the door open and then closed it. His gaze was slightly lowered. On the carpet, the white dress was wet and bunched up. The woman was lying on the ground, and the black suit on her shoulders was scattered under her body. Her exquisite curves were faintly discernible under a layer of white gauze. There was an irresistible sexiness in her purity. Chapter 110. Yi Huanyan fell to the ground and groaned in pain. She heard the door open behind her. She stiffened and struggled to get up from the ground. Ling Han leaned over and reached out to her. She couldn't tell if he was good or bad from his expressionless face. "Get up." Yi Huanyan supported half of her body with one hand on the ground. At this time, seeing Ling Han reach out to her, she was slightly moved. She thought that he turned a blind eye to her by the swimming pool just now because he didn't want to expose their relationship in front of everyone. She felt a little comforted. "You lost face in front of so many people. Do you think you're the only one who lost face?" This sentence made her raise her hand to stop abruptly and hang by her side. "You're still as brainless as before." Ling Han frowned and looked a little disgusted. Seeing that she didn't move, his frown deepened. He picked her up and threw her into the bathroom. With a whoosh, the door of the bathroom was closed, separating the two of them. "Even a few mediocre artists can ride on your head. You must be tired of being the chief secretary." A series of sarcasm made Yi Huanyan's body gradually stiffen. She held the glass door of the shower and stood for a long time, looking at the tall figure swaying faintly behind the frosted door of the bathroom. Every word of sarcasm stabbed into her heart, making it bleed until it became numb. After a long time, the figure at the door disappeared. She finally exhaled slowly, turned on the shower head, and poured cold water on her head. She shivered and her mind was inexplicably clearer. This trip to Bali was expected to be difficult, but now it seemed that it wasn't that bad. She took a quick shower with the cold water. When she turned off the shower, she suddenly realized that she didn't bring any clothes. She looked up at the white towel on the towel rack, frowned, and subconsciously looked in the direction of the bathroom door. Ling Han should have left. She walked out of the bathroom barefoot with a towel wrapped around her hair. As soon as she stepped out of the bathroom door, she saw a figure lying lazily on the sofa with a hotel magazine on his lap. His whole body was leaning against the sofa with his eyes closed and breathing evenly. She stopped and a trace of panic appeared on her face. She subconsciously covered the towel on her chest. It seemed that he was asleep. She breathed a sigh of relief and tiptoed toward the suitcase that was placed beside her bed. She took out her pajamas from her suitcase. Hugging the pajamas, she turned around to take a look. After confirming that Ling Han was sleeping soundly, she hugged the pajamas and tiptoed back to the bathroom. When she closed the door, it inevitably made a sound. She closed her eyes abruptly and quickly locked the door. Ling Han on the sofa slowly opened his eyes, leisurely picked up the magazine on his lap, and walked to the bed. In the bathroom, Yi Huanyan looked at herself in the mirror. The pink silk nightgown accentuated her flawless shoulders. There was a string of white embroidered flowers on the chest, and her cleavage was partly visible. However, the half-sleeved silk nightgown was too wow, so the nightgown wasn't that revealing. What made her embarrassed was that she had actually forgotten to take her underwear in such a hurry after running back and forth. Through the nightgown, she touched her butt and felt inexplicably cold. She tiptoed out of the bathroom with her hands on her skirt, but was surprised to find that the man on the sofa was gone. Gone? She stared blankly for a moment before slowly exhaling. Then, she walked towards her bed in a rather relaxed manner. The man who was leaning against the bed was looking at her calmly, as if he was waiting for her. She was suddenly stunned. "You haven't left yet?" Ling Han looked at her from head to toe. His expression was calm, and there was a trace of contempt in the corner of his eyes. "From the looks of it, you don't seem to care much about what happened just now." Yi Huanyan's slightly red eyes showed a trace of panic, and her chest suddenly felt stuffy. She was a person who could let go of many things after crying. No one's life was easy. It seemed that there were always people who wanted to make things difficult for you and trample on you. If you couldn't even live with yourself, then what was the meaning of life? Her self-healing ability was strong, but it didn't mean that the pain in her heart disappeared just like that. The wound was always there. Even if the scar gradually disappeared, when she touched it again, there would still be a conditioned reflex of pain. She stared at Ling Han, and her eyes dimmed bit by bit. "Do you have anything else to say?" Ling Han frowned, and the expression on his face that was sizing her up restrained a little, but it was tinged with a faint anger. "You forgot the agreement with me this morning so quickly?" "In the morning?" "At the hotel front desk, the agreement about 9:30 in the evening?" "This is my room." Yi Huanyan's voice was a little muffled, and her fingers that were clenching her coat were slightly trembling. That ridiculous agreement was just a threat that he made alone. What kind of agreement was it? "Is that so?" Ling Han sat up from the bed, and his large hand covered the bedsheet beside him. He patted it gently. "Come here." Yi Huanyan took a step back. "President Ling, it's getting late." I asked you to come here." Ling Han's tone was slightly heavy, and Yi Huanyan's whole body trembled. It was obvious that she was afraid of him. Her fingers clutched the corner of her skirt, and she pulled it down with all her might. She was very nervous, and her eyes were red and swollen. It was obvious that she had just cried in the bathroom. Ling Han's tone was a little more relaxed. "Rest first. There's still work tomorrow. I hope you can cheer up." After saying this, he got up and walked towards the door. "I've already negotiated with the client about the contract renewal. I'll leave tomorrow." There was a hint of stubbornness in her voice behind him. His hand that was holding the door handle paused slightly. He turned his head and stared at the figure coldly. "What did you say?" I plan to leave tomorrow. I won't be an eyesore here. I hope you have a good time with Miss Sheng. Ling Han's face darkened. Did I say you could leave? President Ling, you probably drank too much tonight and forgot some things. For example? The footsteps behind her approached step by step. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth. On the plane. I really forgot. The sudden pressure on her shoulders made her whole body stiffen, and her whole body fell into a broad chest. She cried out in surprise. Why don't we relive it once? Maybe I'll remember what I said to you on the plane. Her struggling hands were pinned behind her back, and she lost her balance and was violently pushed onto the bed. Her face smashed hard on the sheets, and as she twisted her waist and struggled, a gust of wind lifted the hem of her skirt up to her waist. Her snow-white buttocks were raised high, and they were completely exposed in the air. They were trembling slightly, and they were like two fragrant and soft white steamed buns. The swaying round shape in front of him made Ling Han's pupils contract abruptly, and a strange look appeared on his cold face. Yi Huanyan realized something. Shame filled her whole body, and she even forgot to struggle. Yi Huanyan, you did this on purpose. She provoked him to stay, made him see this scene, and made him lose control. Since that's the case, I'll satisfy you. Chapter 111. It was a night of passion without any accident. I changed my mind. He gasped in her ear. Yi Huanyan opened her eyes wide and had no energy to ask him what he had changed his mind about. A certain sensitive area in the lower half of his body was suddenly filled up, and a feeling of swelling filled his entire body. Every cell in his body was jumping excitedly, and the countless nerves in his head collapsed into thin threads, breaking one by one under the violent impact. The pink nightdress straps hung on the wooden post at the end of the bed, shaking wildly. The snow-white body glowed with a pink luster, violently undulating. Outside the window, the waves rose again and again, one wave higher than the other, pounding on the reef with a rough sound. That kind of sound drowned out the creaking sound of the bedboard, the heavy breathing, the screams or moans of pain or pleasure. The man was tireless, venting his terrible desire. The woman found a trace of shameful pleasure from the pain. Her lips, which she bit hard, finally loosened and made various sounds. At the door of the room, high-heeled shoes studded with rhinestones stepped on the red carpet. The black evening dress set off the woman's skin as white as jade. Listening to the faint sound from the room, the red lips on the face trembled slightly. Shang Anren's face was gloomy to the extreme. She always thought that Ling Han just had some special hobbies, such as cleanliness, so he never touched her body. Or perhaps it could be said that he was frigid and only liked to admire instead of personally experiencing it. That was why he let her take off her clothes on the bed that night. No matter how hard she tried to be flirtatious on the bed, he just sat on the sofa in the distance and admired quietly. His expression was indifferent and without any ripples. At this moment, the sound from this room undoubtedly gave her a slap in the face. What ability did Yi Huanyan have to let Ling Han sleep with her regardless of the occasion? It was the same on the plane and at the party. Pretending to be pure? His usual old-fashioned and solemn appearance? Or the first time to Ling Han? Maybe all men have a virgin complex? She gritted her teeth. No matter what, Ling Han was the man she saw first, and she tried her best to get him. If others dared to block her way to enter the Ling family and become Mrs. Ling, there was only one way to die. Deep into the night, the room was filled with boundless spring light. The atmosphere had reached its climax. A hint of urgency appeared on the man's face. Then, he let out a muffled groan and slowly exhaled. He turned over and got off the bed, putting on his pants without the slightest reluctance. "You're not allowed to go anywhere. Stay here for the next few days." After saying this, he left without looking back. Yi Huanyan pulled the crumpled bed sheet from the side and hugged it tightly in her arms. Her body trembled slightly. After the passion, the pleasure disappeared, leaving behind only exhaustion and shame. His attitude towards her was as if he had a mistress who could not see the light of day, or perhaps even worse. She didn't know how much time had passed when she felt a throbbing pain in her temples. It was as if there was a drumstick pounding, making a deafening sound. After a long time, she realized that someone was ringing the doorbell. It was already so late, who else could it be? She hurriedly sat up and held onto the pillar by the head of the bed. She casually grabbed a bathrobe and tied it around her body before she staggered towards the door. As soon as he opened the door, a basin of cold water poured down his head, drenching his entire body. I didn't have time to see who it was. A gust of wind blew in his ears. Pa! A crisp sound resounded throughout the entire corridor. There was a burning pain in her right cheek. She covered her cheek in disbelief and raised her head. She looked at the person in front of her with blurred vision. Led by Shang Anren, followed by the 3 artists who had set a trap for her at the party. One of them held a water basin in his hand and hid behind Shang Anren with his face covered. Shameless. Shang Anren's eyes were vicious. He stared at her angrily, as if he wanted to tear her apart. Are you crazy? Who's crazy? Am I wrong to say that you're shameless? Is it the temptation to get wet at the party? Don't tell me that Han just discussed work with you in your room. Secretary Yi, who usually looks serious and serious, seduced her boss at night? Isn't it cheap? Yi Huanyan's face was stiff, and he had nothing to say for a while. You didn't listen to me when I warned you. This slap is light. Seeing that the second slap was about to fall, Yi Huanyan raised his hand and held her wrist. That's enough. Her eyes were cold. She made up her mind and said fiercely, Since you know what I just did with Ling Han in the room, how dare you treat me like this? With the status of the 3 of you? Aren't you afraid that President Ling will settle accounts with you? The 3 artists behind Shang Anren lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Yi Huanyan. It's not that they don't understand this, but they follow Shang Anren on the pirate ship and can't get down. Get out of here. She spat out a word and glanced at the 3 people coldly. The 3 people looked at each other and ran faster than mice. Sister Anren, we've done what you asked us to do. We'll go first. For a moment, the corridor was quiet again. Shang Anren looked around and sneered. You have the ability. What? Do you think it's safe in this way? Are you afraid that we will bully you with more people? The party was about to end. Hearing the sound of people coming from the direction of the elevator, Yi Huanyan frowned, pulled Shang Anren's arm, and dragged her directly into the room. What do you want to do? Shang Anren was tripped and fell on the sofa. Her face darkened and she was a little flustered. Bang! A sound was heard. Yi Huanyan closed the door and looked back to see Shang Anren with a panicked face. She sneered, You're afraid, Miss Shang. Didn't you come to me? She looked down at her wet clothes. Isn't this your masterpiece? You deserve it. Who told you to steal other people's men? Shang Anren gritted her teeth and stared at Yi Huanyan. Don't you know that being a mistress is shameful? No one will sympathize with you if you tell others about your behavior. Mistress? Yi Huanyan wiped her face and tucked her wet hair behind her ears. She grabbed a towel on the shelf and wiped her face, saying coldly, You might as well say this to yourself. I've known Ling Han for 10 years. Who's the mistress? Shang Anren looked stiff. 10 years. Yi Huanyan's face was gloomy. Her feelings of 10 years were said to be a mistress by the woman who had just climbed Ling Han for less than a year. She was full of resentment. Who could she reason with? Was it really like what Ling Han said? Now, even an artist from the company could ride on her head? 10 years ago, you hadn't debuted yet. Shang Anren, don't take yourself too seriously. Unless you really become Mrs. Ling one day, don't show off in front of me. I, Yi Huanyan, am not afraid of others' threats. Her voice was never so cold. Even she didn't believe that she would say such a thing. After Shang Anren left, she sat by the bed to tidy up her clothes. After tidying up for a while, she thought of her powerful words just now. She laughed at herself and looked at the door. Ling Han said that she had no brain, no ability, and no temper. Then she vented her temper on his favorite woman. Anyway, she was going to leave. Why should she bear this kind of vexation? Chapter 112. In the early morning, the roar of the plane sounded over the Bali airport. Yi Huanyan leaned back in her seat, and fell asleep as if a 1,000-pound boulder had fallen off her heart. Early the next morning, Ling Han walked out of the room in a white nightgown and full of spirit. In the dining room of the suite, there were all kinds of dishes prepared by Shang Anren. When she saw him coming out, she went up to him with a smile. "Wake up? Have breakfast. You went to bed so early yesterday. I brought you something to eat when I came back. I didn't disturb you when I saw you sleeping. I'm a little hungry." Ling Han was in a good mood. He picked up the toast slice and took a bite and walked towards the French window in the living room. Shang Anren stood at the dining table, looking at his back thoughtfully, and glanced at the dining table. "Han, the front desk sent a note in the morning. I don't know who wrote it." "Note." Ling Han swallowed the bread and turned around. Shang Anren picked up the white note under the plate from the dining table and walked up to him, twisting her waist. "Here." The familiar graceful handwriting made Ling Han's eyes suddenly become cold. "As you wish, I'll go first." "I wish you a pleasant vacation." He asked coldly, "When did it come?" Shang Anren hesitated for a moment, as if she was thinking, "About half an hour ago when breakfast was just delivered." "Hey Han, where are you going?" Looking at the back of Ling Han, who disappeared at the door in a bathrobe, Shang Anren leaned against the windowsill, revealing a secret sneer. Of course, she had read the content of the note. Even if Ling Han chased after him now, she was afraid that he would not be able to catch the plane. Yi Huanyan was really unpredictable. Last night, she was so aggressive to her that she thought she had met a well-matched opponent. In the end, the woman told her that she had no intention of competing with her, and packed up her things and left the hotel in front of her. A gesture of goodwill? Shang Anren sneered. She was sensible. The front desk checked out Yi Huanyan's checkout record at 1 o'clock in the morning. Ling Han returned to his room with a cold expression. His expression was extremely ugly. Shang Anren looked as if she didn't understand what had happened. She went up to him in surprise and pouted. "Han, what's wrong? Where did he go? Why do you look so pale?" Ling Han supported himself with a chair and sat down. He stared at the food on the table and instantly lost his appetite. "How long do you plan to stay here this time?" "About 10 days. Ling Han frowned. Why did it take so long? Thinking of this, he thought of the woman who had run away at the last minute, and his eyes were filled with anger. Who gave her the guts to let her leave without his permission? "It's cold. The weather is so good outside. Let's go swimming." Shang Anren's coquettish voice sounded beside him, and her chest was almost pressed against his face. He turned his head in disgust. "Go by yourself. The sun is too strong." Through the window, Shang Anren looked at the seaside and rolled her eyes. "I see that Manager Li and the others are all at the seaside. It seems that they are having a good time with several artists of our company. Han, are you really not going to take a look? Didn't you say last time that you still have a contract to discuss with Manager Li?" Ling Han's face showed a trace of relaxation. After a few seconds, he stood up. "Let's go." This Manager Li was the representative of the circle who was not close to women. This was a rare opportunity. He went back to his room and changed into light seaside casual clothes. Looking at himself in the mirror, he slowly exhaled. Without Yi Huanyan, this trip had a greater meaning. The plane was delayed. When Yi Huanyan arrived at the airport of Lonjiang City, it was already late at night in Lonjiang City. She was dressed simply and waited for her luggage at the luggage carousel. It was 12 o'clock at night. There were not many people at the luggage carousel. Yi Huanyan looked around. Suddenly, there was a bustling crowd in the distance. It was a little noisy. She frowned and looked towards the source of the sound. 7 or 8 girls were surrounding someone and walking towards the luggage carousel next to her. The man in the middle was wearing a cap and a mask. He was being protected by the security guards and looked like he was having a hard time moving. However, he didn't show any impatience as he tried to persuade them. Well, let's wait for my luggage at the luggage carousel. I'll take a photo with you, okay? Su Nianhua spread out his hands. If you stop me like this, I won't have time to rest when I go back tonight. I have a job tomorrow. Embarrassed, the girls made way for him and apologized profusely, calling him Brother Yonyen. Fortunately, there were few people at the airport. If the number of fans was large, it would be useless to say anything. Yi Huanyan admired these little sisters who squatted at the airport all night. Where did they know Su Nianhua's itinerary? Or were they squatting here every day? Su Nianhua squeezed out of the crowd. Before he reached the luggage carousel, he saw a familiar figure 5 or 6 meters away. She was looking at him with a faint smile on her face. She seemed to be stunned for a moment and forgot to avoid him. Then, she looked at him gently and smiled. His heart moved and he almost couldn't control himself and rushed over. Brother Hua, can you give me an autograph first? The voice beside him reminded him that they were in a public place. He suddenly came back to his senses. He smiled and took the notebook from the fan's hand. With a wave of his hand, a gorgeous signature appeared on the paper. Fate was so coincidental that his luggage carousel was next to Yi Huanyan's. Perhaps it was this coincidence at the airport that made him sure of his feelings for Yi Huanyan. She said that obsession and guilt had troubled him for 10 years. Then, after letting go of the guilt and obsession, he peeled open his heart layer by layer and found that there was still love, and it wasn't just a little bit. The woman in front of him was not far away from him. She was wearing white sneakers, blue jeans, and a khaki-colored button-down coat. He could not tell that she was a mature woman who had been working for a long time. Whether it was the refreshing ponytail on her head, her clean face without makeup, or even the panicked look on her face when she saw that there were so many fans, all of it made him feel moved. His original heart was her, and his heart was also her. Now his heart was full of love, and it was all for her. Yi Huanyan's luggage arrived early. She waved her hand at him from afar, indicating that she wanted to leave first. A trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes, but the crowd gradually surrounded him. There was nothing he could do. Li Dali saw all of this and blocked Su Nianhua's personal security with a few words. Then, he quietly appeared at the airport entrance and blocked Yi Huanyan's way. Miss Yi, it's too late now. It's not convenient to take a taxi. Why don't I give you a ride? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked at the nanny van not far away and hesitated. It was so late. She wouldn't be targeted by fans, right? Moreover, there were no cars at the airport at this time. The subway had stopped running. On a rainy day, there were very few taxis. Just now, she heard a car call a few people from different directions to carpool. At this time, people from different places had to carpool. How long would it take to go home? Chapter 113. Su Nianhua took his luggage and left the airport with the security guard. Behind him, 7 or 8 fans chased after him. They chased him all the way to the minivan. If the bodyguard didn't stop them, Su Nianhua even suspected that they would climb to the roof of the minivan. He got into the van and let out a long sigh of relief. Bro Li, why did you leave first? Oh yeah, I just saw Yen Yen. I saw her too. Li Dali turned around from the front passenger seat, but his gaze went over his shoulder and landed on the curtain behind him. Slender fingers pulled open the beige curtain with a whoosh sound. A delicate and sweet face appeared from a pile of clothes. She took a deep breath and exclaimed, I'm suffocating. Yen Yen. Su Nianhua opened his eyes wide. Why are you so surprised? Yi Huanyan's lips curled up slightly as she exchanged a smile with Li Dali. Broly saw that I couldn't find a taxi, so he gave me a ride. You don't mind, right? Of course I don't mind. Su Nianhua was so happy that he was incoherent. Why are you at the airport? Where did you come from? I wanted to ask you, but there were too many people and I didn't want to cause you trouble. Yi Huanyan looked indifferent. She changed her direction and sat in the chair opposite to Su Nianhua. The company organized a trip to Bali. I came back early because I had something to do. Bali? That's a good place. Did you have fun? It's okay. Yi Huanyan looked reluctant. Su Nianhua was slightly stunned. From her forced smile, he saw a trace of sadness. He guessed that this trip was probably not going to be so smooth. He thought for a while and looked up. Yen, I brought you a gift from France this time. Broly, where's the gift bag? I bought it in Paris yesterday. A faint sigh came from the front passenger seat. Bro Hua, you said there were more than a dozen gift bags of different sizes. They filled a box and were sent directly from France. How could it arrive so quickly? And how would I know which one you're talking about? The pink one. Oh, perfume. Li Dolly rummaged through his backpack and took out a pink square box and placed it in the back seat. It's here. This thing is small. I put it in your bag. I tried this perfume in the shop and it tastes pretty good. That's why I bought it for you. When the pink box was handed to Yi Huanyan, she was slightly stunned. Her gaze was focused on the white furry ball on the box. It's so cute. Opening the box, there was a transparent pink bottle of perfume in the shape of a water droplet, with a string of French words written on it. Try it. He smiled. I think it suits you. It's quite expensive, isn't it? I'm sorry for making you spend so much money. Do you want me to give you the money? Are you planning to treat me as a purchasing agent? Su Nianhua's eyes were filled with resentment. Li Dolly's laughter came from the front passenger seat. Miss Yi, you don't have to be so polite. Brother Hua's money is enough for you to soak in the perfume bathtub every day. You don't have to be so polite with him. This kind of nouveau riche description made Yi Huanyan burst out laughing. Soak in the bathtub and take a perfume bath? Who was going to suffocate? Then I won't be polite with you. Next time, I'll treat you to a meal. Yi Huanyan tilted her head and revealed a sly smile. Sure enough, girls have no immunity to anything cute. Su Nianhua looked at her smiling face as she fiddled with the perfume, and a gentle look appeared in the corner of his eyes. After chatting for a while, when the car drove into Jinjiang Park, Yi Huanyan realized that she forgot to tell Li Dolly where she lived. He naturally drove to Jinjiang Park. She raised her wrist and glanced at it. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. She was too embarrassed to ask them to give her a ride. Thinking that Ling Han was still in Bali, it wasn't a big deal for her to stay here for one night, so she got out of the car. Su Nianhua stood in front of the car door with a gentle look on his face. When my tour ends this year, let's have a good gathering with my former classmates. If they see you, they will be very surprised. Yi Huanyan looked at him with a smile. After all, how many people's classmates would become such a famous singer? Brother Hua, get in the car and leave. You still have to catch a flight to Xicheng tomorrow morning. Li Dolly urged in the car, and did not forget to look at Yi Huanyan apologetically. Miss Yi, please persuade him. He has been working non-stop for so long. It's rare for him to have some time to rest. He should take a good rest. I'm not tired. Su Nianhua seemed to dislike Li Dolly's meddling. Fine, I said too much. Li Dolly tilted his head and looked at Yi Huanyan. If you're not tired, why don't you ask Miss Yi if she's tired? It's an 8-hour drive from Bali to Lanjiang. I heard that it rained later today. Your body can't take it. It was this that made Su Nianhua stop and get in the car. Yi Huanyan carried the pink perfume box and pulled the suitcase to Ling Han's apartment. The password was the same as before, and it opened with a simple press. She fumbled around in the kitchen to boil water. In the dark, she heard a frightened scream. Who is it? Yi Huanyan froze. If it wasn't for the familiar voice, she would have dropped the cup. It's me. Ling Ling was a light sleeper and had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night. When she heard the noise, she came out. Oh, Miss Yi, why didn't you turn on the lights? You scared me. I thought it was a thief. Where's the young master? Did he come back together? Ling Ling fumbled around and turned on the lights. She looked around but didn't see Ling Han. Yi Huanyan took a tissue and wiped the water stains on the marble countertop. She was a little absent-minded. Ling Ling, I have some special circumstances, so I'm staying here for a night. Can you not tell Ling Han that I stayed here? The young master didn't come back? Yeah, he didn't come back. He'll probably stay in Bali for about 10 days. But don't worry, I'm only staying here for one night. I'll leave tomorrow morning. The driver who sent me back drove the wrong way. Ling Ling sighed in relief. No wonder. Miss Yi has been here for so long. She must be not used to moving so suddenly. She probably gave the wrong address when she came back from the airport. Yeah, I guess so. Yi Huanyan looked a little embarrassed. Then you can stay here. I won't say anything. Ling Ling's eyes were full of sincerity. It's all thanks to you that I was able to stay here. Thank you. Miss Yi, do you want to eat anything? I'll make you supper. No. You're welcome. I'm not being polite. It's what I should do. Yi Huanyan couldn't persuade Ling Ling in the end. She sat on the sofa and looked at the busy figure in the kitchen with a coat on. She felt warm in her heart. The kindness of strangers could always quickly heal people's hearts. It was like feeling that the world was warm and reliable because you didn't expect much from them. As for those relatives who had been with you for 10 or 20 years, because you loved them and had done so much for them, you had too many expectations from them. That was why they could always bring you disappointment in the world. No matter what, tonight was a warm night. Chapter 114. On the afternoon of Yi Huanyan's departure by flight, holiday in Bali, Shang Enren, wearing a black bikini with a white lace hollowed-out smock, attracted the eyes of countless men and women on the beach. She was born as a print model. Although her height of 1.75 meters was not as high as those runway models who were easily more than 1.8 meters, her figure was known as a 9-headed beauty in the modeling industry, which was extremely close to the golden ratio. At this time, 2 slender long legs passed gracefully in the waves, and the 36D chest surged with a little movement. Cold the sea is a little cold. She shouted sweetly into the distance. This shout made the hearts of the people on the beach melt. 5 or 6 meters away from Shang Anren, Ling Han was wearing a colorful floral underwear and standing on the beach with his upper body naked. He glanced in the direction of Shang Anren with a dispirited expression. The waves were rolling, and a wave came over. There was a woman's scream and play on the beach, which was very pleasant, especially Shang Enren. The sea water wet her smock, and her perfect figure was looming under the smock, which was a little more sexy than not wearing clothes. The men on the beach were all staring. Cold, the sea is so cold. Shang Enren trotted to Ling Han's side and took his arm. She raised her head and showed him a warm smile. Her round chest rubbed against his arm so much that it felt elastic just by looking at it. It was obvious that the famous flower had a master. The envious men had to take back their naked eyes, but they did not forget to look at it secretly. Ling Han turned a blind eye to her attentions and looked up at the other side of the sea with a cold look. Since it's too cold, go back to the hotel. I don't mean that. Shang Enren thought that her nagging made Ling Han dissatisfied, so she quickly changed her words. Do you want to stay here? Ling Han pulled out his arm, and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. I'm tired. I'll go back to have a rest. Looking at the figure of Ling Han, Shang Enren frowned slightly. She didn't know what she had done to make him unhappy. In addition to being annoyed, she caught a glimpse of another beach. Mr. Li was lying under a parasol and enjoying the sea breeze. Zhao Bingqing was lying on her side and was diligently handing juice to Mr. Li. This girl was originally just used as a gun, but she didn't expect to meet Mr. Li's appetite. She was quite capable. If I can get the contract from Mr. Li, Ling Han's attitude towards me will change. Shang Anren's mouth raised a meaningful arc. If you want to keep a man's heart, you have to help him get what he wants most and become the most valuable person around him. Compared with any feelings, Ling Han is a man who puts his career first, so only if you have an indispensable role in his career can you stay with him for a long time. This is the reality. In the evening, Shang Enren returned to the suite with a red face and a little smell of alcohol. She held a contract in her hand and stared at the door of Ling Han's room for a long time. She bit her lips and a charm flashed in her eyes. Just as she was about to knock on the door, she suddenly thought of something. She glanced at the contract in her hand, and the corner of her eyes raised a successful arc. She turned into the bathroom of her bedroom. She was wearing a wine-red suspender nightdress with black lace on the side, revealing her smooth and flawless thighs. Her skin was tight and elastic. She looked at herself in the mirror and was very satisfied with her state today. She didn't believe that she couldn't get Ling Han tonight. Talk, talk, talk. Han, I have a surprise for you. Han, if you don't speak, I'll go in. Do you know, it was not easy for me to get the contract from Mr. Li for you. Turning the door, Shang Enren's voice stopped abruptly. There was no one in the room, and the suitcase in the corner disappeared. All this silently showed that he had left. 10 minutes later, Rui Shui and Lin Jie hurried in together, looking nervous. Sister Enren, the front desk said that Mr. Ling left 2 hours ago. He didn't check out the room, but he left a note for you at the front desk. What note? Give it to me. Shang Enren's face flashed a strange light. When she saw that the suitcase was gone, she knew that Ling Han had left. It was not the first time that he had disappeared from her side silently. She had gradually gotten used to it. Although she was not reconciled, she had to admit that she was just like what Yi Huanyan had said. In his heart, she was just a flower vase and did not have much weight. At this moment, when she heard that Ling Han had left a message for her, she suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. This was something that had never happened before. Rui Shui handed over a white note, her fingertips trembling, and her face was nervous, as if she was afraid that Shang Enren would be angry at the moment. The black handwriting on the note was strong and powerful, and at the end was his signature. Enren, please tell the company's staff that the company is busy, so I need to go back to deal with it in advance. It's a rare holiday. I hope you have a good time, Ling Han. In addition to the last 2 words of the signature were written by Ling Han, the first line of words was upright, but there was no natural and unrestrained style. It was obvious that someone had written it for him. And from the respectful and polite tone, there was no need to think about it to know that the company had temporarily sent an assistant to Ling Han. Sister Enren, Mr. Ling, he... What did he say? Rui Shui asked carefully. The note was clenched in Shang Enren's palm, and her nails were embedded in the flesh. But on the surface, she glanced at the 2 people in front of her and smiled slightly. Her voice was sweet and flawless. Nothing. Mr. Ling had to go back temporarily. He asked me to entertain the company's customers and artists for him. Lin Jie was not a person who could read the mood. She frowned and asked, Go back temporarily? Secretary Yi just left in the morning, and Mr. Ling left. Is it? Shang Enren's face suddenly sank. Rui Shui hurriedly pulled Lin Jie's arm and blinked at her desperately. You go out first. I don't want a 4th person to know that Mr. Ling has left for the time being. Shang Enren suppressed her anger, but her voice trembled a little. Her position and identity were all supported by Ling Han. If these people knew that Ling Han had left her alone and returned home early, then everything before would become a laughing stock. Lin Jie seemed to want to say something, but she was pulled out by Rui Shui and closed the door. You're crazy. You didn't see Shang Enren's face. What else do you want to say? I just want to remind Sister Enren that Secretary Yi and Mr. Ling may be. Do you think Shang Enren can't see the things that you can see? Rui Shui mercilessly interrupted Lin Jie's words. At the same time, there was a sudden clanging sound in the room, and even the door shook twice. No one knew what hit it. The 2 people in the corridor froze. Rui Shui rolled her eyes at Lin Jie and strode toward her room without looking back. Sooner or later, I'll be dragged to death by you. Hey, Xiao Shui, wait for me. I didn't mean it. Chapter 115. Lonjiang City, Jinjiang Park Villa District. A black business car slowly drove in from the entrance of the residential area and finally stopped in front of the courtyard of the 3-story villa. A man in a suit who looked like an assistant opened the car door. His slender legs stepped out of the car door, and his shiny leather shoes raised a trace of dust on the ground. "You go back to the company first. Don't tell anyone that I'm back." Yes, Mr. Ling was having breakfast in the living room. Because Yi Huanyan came back in the early hours of the night before, she deliberately arranged breakfast after 9 o'clock. Before setting the table, she knocked on Yi Huanyan's door. Ling Han entered the password and directly opened the door. When he was changing his shoes at the entrance, he saw Ling's surprised expression. "Young master, you should be in Bali, right?" Ling Han changed his shoes, threw his coat on the sofa and loosened the tie around his neck. "Something came up, so I came back early." His eyes caught sight of the breakfast on the table and his expression slightly froze. At this moment, the door of the bedroom on the first floor facing his direction suddenly opened. Yi Huanyan stood at the door in pink bear pajamas, with a toothbrush in her mouth, and asked vaguely with her eyes closed. Ling, why isn't the water coming out of the bathroom?" Ling was stunned in the living room. Her eyes stiffly moved from Ling Han to Yi Huanyan. Ling. Hearing no response, Yi Huanyan opened her eyes in a daze. At this moment, a tall figure quickly came into view and was looking at her with a gloomy face. Bam! The pink toothbrush fell on the floor and the toothpaste foam splashed all over the floor. You're not. Aren't you supposed to be in Bali?" She asked the same question in her heart as Ling, but Ling Han did not answer. The door was closed with a bang. Ling Han stood behind the door with a gloomy face. Without any explanation, he locked both of them in the room and isolated them from the outside world. Yi Huanyan staggered and fell onto the bed less than a meter away from the door. Her whole body stiffened. "I should be the one asking you that. Yi Huanyan, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Who asked you to come back from Bali? And why are you here?" He stood at the door and did not approach, but his expression was terrifyingly dark. Yi Huanyan shrunk her shoulders, feeling guilty and panicked. "I came back too late last night. My flight was delayed and I gave the wrong address at the airport." "Ha!" A cold laugh sounded in the room. "Gave the wrong address? How accustomed are you to living here?" "I'm leaving now." She raised her head, looked around, and hurriedly crouched down to pack the suitcase at the end of the bed. "Just in time. Once you're done, you can move to your original room on the second floor." A cold voice sounded behind her, which made Yi Huanyan think it was an illusion. She turned around in a daze and couldn't believe it. "You mean, I don't have to move? Are you happy?" Ling Han's lips curled into a smile. He bent his index finger and gently lifted her chin. "This is your reward for flying back from Bali early." Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation. "My luggage over there. Before you move in, I'll get someone to move it out for you." Yi Huanyan abruptly looked into his eyes. His eyes were filled with mockery and ridicule towards her. In a moment of desperation, she forgot her own situation and blurted out in a loud voice. "You want her to move in with us?" Ling Han's eyes suddenly darkened. "Our house?" Yi Huanyan's eyes froze. She knew she had said something wrong. A layer of fear gradually appeared on her face. "Who gave you the courage to say these 3 words? That's the property of the Ling family. It has nothing to do with you. Remember, Yi Huanyan, I don't only want Shang Anren to move in, I'll also make her the new owner of that house. I beg you don't." She bit her lip. Her heart suddenly contracted, making her feel a sharp pain in her chest. That was the only place where she had good memories with him. That was the only place where she could truly remember how she had integrated into the Ling family and even the life of the man in front of her in the past 10 years. "Now you know how to beg me?" Ling Han shook off her chin in disgust and looked down at the woman kneeling on the ground with no dignity. "When I advised you not to leave Bali, why didn't you think about the consequences of disobeying me? This is a small punishment for you. You said that as long as I was willing to give up the job of pleasure, you could let me go. I'm willing now. I beg you, don't let Shang Anren move in. It's too late. I also told you to go back home immediately after getting off the plane, but you didn't do it. There was no sympathy in Ling Han's eyes. He opened the door and left a sentence indifferently. Remember, don't go against my words in the future. You think you're not afraid of anything, but in fact, you can lose a lot of things, and it's easy for me to make you lose them. You're so cruel. Her choked voice came from behind. She had always had expectations for him. Even at this moment, she still hoped that he would change his mind. But only his cold voice came from the door. Only a cruel person can live a good life. Didn't Zhang Milan teach you that? No one could change his decision. Yi Huanyan looked at the pink toothbrush lying on the ground at the door and the traces of white toothpaste foam that had dried up beside it. Her eyes were filled with sadness. It was natural for the son to repay the father's debt, and the daughter to repay the mother's debt. Ling Han ignored Ling Ling's question of whether he wanted to eat breakfast. He went straight upstairs and locked himself in the study. On his phone was a text message from Shang Anren when he just got off the plane. Han, I've done what I promised you. What about what you promised me? I hope you can give me a surprise when I go back. The phone dialed a number. His voice was calm and emotionless. After the call was connected, a delicate voice came from the other end of the phone. Han, did you get off the plane? You left without saying anything. I even took the contract back to the hotel to look for you to give you a surprise. Did you get the contract? Of course, for you, I can do anything. Thank you, Anren. Ling Han's voice was gentler. Then, what about what you promised me? Shang Anren's voice was a little coquettish. And you left me alone in Bali and just went back like this. Aren't you going to compensate me? Ling Han's eyes were covered with a thin layer of frost. Although it was sweet and coquettish, there was no lack of threat in it. He couldn't guarantee that if he didn't agree with her, what kind of reason would she use to send this contract to him in the next second? Shang Anren had never been the kind of woman with big breasts and no brain. She could sit in the position of movie queen today. In addition to her beauty, her intelligence was also incomparable to ordinary people. Therefore, she could stay with him for so long. Whether it was the profit that pleasure could transfer from her every year, it was also the cooperation opportunities that she could help him win. When I come back, I'll send someone to help you move your things to Fujin Court. Fujin Court? Don't you live in Jinjiang Court? A puzzled voice came from the other end of the phone. Fujin Court is where my parents and I used to live. What, you don't want to? No. I want to. The ecstasy on the other end of the phone seemed to jump out. Chapter 116. Before going to Bali, Shang Anren vaguely suspected the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han. There were women's belongings in Ling Han's house, and they were very expensive. They definitely did not belong to the servant who looked like a country bumpkin. Excluding Ji Xiaoye, who was rumored to have an affair with Ling Han but had resigned in the personnel record, there was only Yi Huanyan, whom she saw with her own eyes walking out of Ling Han's villa in the middle of the night. Although Qiao Mu did not confess, her woman's intuition told her that Yi Huanyan was definitely the woman who lived with Ling Han. And if she wanted to be promoted, the first step was to push this woman away, starting from living together, and then find a way to become Mrs. Ling. So she offered to help Ling Han negotiate the contract with President Li, and the condition was that she wanted to move into the villa in Jinjiang Court and live with him after the deal was done. However, Ling Han gave her a better choice that she could not refuse. As Ling Han said, the house in Fujin Court was where Ling Han's parents lived, so the person who lived there was naturally a very important person in the Ling family, which was equivalent to admitting her identity as the hostess in a disguised way. Even if Yi Huanyan still lived in Jinjiang Court, so what? The person who could live in the most meaningful house in the Ling family was the future Mrs. Ling. Han, thank you. I'm so happy. The sweet voice coming from the phone could almost make most men in the world feel a sense of achievement, but Ling Han frowned. It's nothing. You deserve it. Pleasure was his world. It was easy to fight for power, but difficult to keep it. What he was facing now was the problem of the board of directors abusing power. Although it was not serious, he had to be prepared in advance. He did not care how much gossip he had. Most of those women were female artists in the company. If there was news, there would be exposure, and if there was exposure, he could successfully make them popular. At worst, he could clear their names later. As long as there were these popular artists, Pleasure's annual income was enough to shut the mouths of those people on the board of directors. After Ling Dongming left, he truly felt the pressure of managing a large company. This was also the reason why he couldn't blame his father, even though he knew that it wasn't his fault for cheating. He had already endured enough pressure, so there was nothing to be sorry about. Everyone had their own selfish desires. Ling Dongming's selfish desires were lust that couldn't be rationally controlled, while Ling Han's selfish desires were hatred that couldn't be rationally controlled. He went downstairs from the study. The food on the dining table was untouched. Yi Huanyan's door was closed. Ling Han glanced at Ling Ling. She understood and carefully explained, "Miss Yi didn't come out. I knocked on the door but didn't hear any response. Maybe she came back too late last night and went to sleep again." Ling Han frowned as he looked at Yi Huanyan's door. He strode over, raised his hand, and knocked twice. "Yi Huanyan, I'll give you 10 minutes. Come out and eat." There was no response from inside the room. Ling Han pushed open the door. On the beige bed, a thin and weak body was curled up under the blanket. Her back was facing him, and her posture was stiff. It was obvious that she wasn't asleep at all. Ling Han's brows were tinged with coldness. He turned around, picked up the tray, and strode in. "When I'm talking to you properly, do as I say. I'm not eating." Yi Huanyan still maintained her posture with her back to him. Her voice was muffled, and she had a rebellious attitude. Ling Han's eyes turned cold. "Get up. I said I'm not eating." She gritted her teeth, pulled the blanket over her head, and looked like she was going to fight to the end. Ling Han didn't have much patience to begin with. When he saw this, he put the tray on the cabinet beside him, violently pulled the blanket away, and directly lifted her up. He wrapped one hand around her shoulder, grabbed the back of her neck, and stuffed a piece of toast into her mouth with the other hand. At first, she was still struggling. Perhaps it was because of the overnight flight and the shock just now, her body gradually couldn't take it anymore. The moment he pinched her chin, her teeth loosened, and a piece of toast was violently stuffed into her mouth. She was choked and felt uncomfortable. She covered her chest, and her face turned red. Then, she directly drank half a cup of milk, and only then did it ease the toast in her throat. The bed was a mess. There were breadcrumbs and milk stains. It was like the scene of an insensible child after a big fight. Halfway through the milk, she probably choked. She covered her chest and coughed violently. Ling Han felt suffocated. He shook her body off and put down the cup of milk heavily. His face was extremely dark. "You're protesting by going on a hunger strike. Who are you trying to threaten? Every cent you used was given to you by the Ling family. What right do you have to talk to me about that house?" Yi Huanyan raised her head with tears in her eyes. She saw the figure standing by the bed. His expensive suit was a mess. She pursed her lips, and for a moment, she was speechless. She was just living under someone else's roof. What right did she have to be picky? She slowly moved to the side of the bed, picked up the plate, and put the fried egg into her mouth with a fork. She ate the fruit and drank the milk on the side. She lowered her head the whole time, holding back her tears, and stuffed her cheeks until they were bulging. Ling Han's voice returned to normal, and there was a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. When he left a sentence. "Clean yourself up after you're done eating." The moment he walked out of the room, Ling Han felt very stuffy in his chest. Yi Huanyan was a person with sharp edges. She had a personality like a wild cat, and she was too stubborn. He hadn't seen her fight with anyone for a long time. Although the words, "I don't," made him angry, it made him miss it even more. Many years ago, she also shouted at Jiang Milan at home like this, "I don't want to learn the violin." Or, "What's the point of playing the piano? I don't want it." Or, "I want that album." If you don't buy it, I'll go on a hunger strike. Or, Brother Ling Han, what's your relationship with that woman? I don't like her. I don't used to be her synonym. She had a lot of resistance in her heart. Not long after she came to the Ling family, she ushered in the rebellious period. He, who had been respectful to his parents since he was young, had never experienced such resistance. He had never had the chance to say, I don't. After Yi Huanyan finished eating, Ling Ling went into the room to clean up the mess. When she saw the mess on the bed, she couldn't help but sigh. She was obviously young, but she used an experienced tone to comfort Yi Huanyan. Miss Yi, don't be stubborn with young master. Young master's temper has always been firm. He can be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. Why do you have to be like this? Yi Huanyan was a little numb to these words. She had comforted herself like this before, but the more she comforted herself, the more it seemed that it was natural for her to endure. She had forgotten that she was once an arrogant young lady. Where is he? Young master just went out directly. Do you need me to call and ask where he went? There's no need. It was good that he went out. After a short handshake, it was indeed stormy again. The room on the second floor was where her nightmare began. Now that she was going back to the starting point, she had to adapt to it before he came back. Chapter 117. In the Ling family villa in Fujin Park. A silver-gray sports car was parked in the courtyard. It was obvious that it had just stopped not long ago. It left fresh car tracks in the courtyard after the rain. Inside the house, a pair of well-defined hands opened the drawer at the entrance and put a bunch of keys into the pocket of his coat. Then, he walked up to the second floor. After that, the door of a secondary bedroom on the second floor facing the sun opened. The tall figure stopped at the door for a while before pulling the door and locking it. With a click, it was as if a long memory had been turned off. After walking around, his hands were covered in dust. He washed his face in the bathroom on the second floor and looked at himself in the mirror. He turned around and looked at the toilet behind him. He suddenly recalled the first time he spent the night in this house after Yi Huanyan entered this house. Although the house was big, there was no bathroom in his and Yi Huanyan's rooms. There was a bathroom in the middle of the two bedrooms in the corner. It was the closest bathroom between the two rooms. It was raining that day. After discussing company matters with Ling Dongming, Jiang Meilan asked him to stay here. At that time, Yi Huanyan had to go to cram school because of the final exam and came back late. After going upstairs to unpack her school bag, she opened the bathroom door and their eyes met. Ling Han sat on the toilet with a stiff expression. Ordinary girls would either run away or cover their faces and scream. Only Yi Huanyan was not an ordinary person. She actually entered the bathroom openly and took the facial cleanser on the shelf. Her tone was very stiff. I'll take something. You continue. The moment the door closed, Ling Han could not help but laugh. In order to hide the awkwardness in her heart, she could actually brace herself and pretend to be calm to such an extent. Just as Ling Dongming usually mentioned, she was a talent and would definitely have a bright future. Now that he was sitting on the toilet lid and looking up at the bathroom door, it was as if the scene from back then had appeared again. In order not to worsen the situation, the girl who clearly had an awkward expression put on a smile that was even uglier than crying. Then, she walked past him and pretended to be calm as she took the facial cleanser from the shelf. At that time, he was only a young man in his early 20s. Other than feeling awkward, he actually found it interesting. He wanted to keep Yi Huanyan by his side. Even if she had to use this method, even if she was covered in bruises, even if she regretted it in the future, she would just leave it as it was. The pain in his heart was no less than hers. Every time he admitted that he loved her, his biological mother's face would appear in his nightmares at night, full of resentment and pain. A week later, the group trip to Bali ended, and everyone in the company returned. After that, it was time to prepare for the company's annual meeting. Every department was busy with the year-end summary, so the preparation for the annual meeting fell on the multi-talented Secretary Yi. Using the excuse of preparing for the annual meeting, she devoted herself to work. Probably for the sake of the company, Ling Han did not find trouble with her again. Every day, they did things according to the rules, went to work according to the rules, and slept according to the rules. It could be said that they respected each other. On the second day after the trip to Bali, Shang Enren appeared in the pleasure group in a dignified and elegant dress, which made many people stunned. The movie queen Shang, who had always been known for her beauty, was still stunning when she dressed up as a lady. Because Ling Han was in a meeting, Yi Huanyan sincerely suggested that Shang Enren should not come to the company before the end of the year. Maybe it was because she wanted to show her strength. The lounge of the president's office became the scene of Shang Enren's compliment. Yi Huanyan angrily put down the pastries and tea and sternly warned the group of flattering colleagues at the scene. You don't want to do it, do you? If President Ling comes out after the meeting and sees you so lazy, I won't plead for you. A group of people looked embarrassed. When they were about to leave, they heard Shang Enren speak calmly. It's okay. I'll tell Han then. No matter how busy the company is, we have to strike a balance between work and rest, don't we? Yi Huanyan frowned. Miss Shang, this is the company, not your personal studio. If you disturb the order here, I'm afraid President Ling is not so easy to talk to. Really? Shang Enren's eyes were full of contempt, but there was a trace of regret in her tone. I also want to talk to you about the decoration of the house. I really don't know how to decorate an old house to make it comfortable to live in. Decoration. Xiao Dong of the assistant group was the first to smell a trace of unusual smell. Miss Shang, did you buy a house? No, it's just that President Ling gave me the house where his parents used to live. I thought that no one had lived in it for so long, so I wanted to renovate it. This sweet voice sounded quite proud, as if she had the confidence to have the title of Mrs. Ling in her pocket. When everyone heard that the old president had rented a house, they were all shocked. It was too late to flatter and envy. How could they care about Yi Huanyan's warning? Live in the old president's house? Isn't that a place where only the Ling family can live? Miss Shang, no, I'm afraid I'll call you Mrs. Ling in the future. Yi Huanyan's face suddenly turned pale, and his fingers holding the tray couldn't help trembling. This scene fell into the eyes of Shang Enren. She raised her red lips and smiled quite proudly. With a smile at the corner of her mouth, she picked up the tea, took a sip, and exhaled comfortably. It's not a thing yet. I need you to give me some suggestions about the renovation. Yi Huanyan held the tray tightly and escaped from the lounge. He gritted his teeth and looked in the direction of the opposite conference room. The conference room of the president's office was not big. It was basically open only when the company's top management met. Ling Han called the company's top management to discuss the annual plan of the next year. The meeting had been going on for 3 hours, and they didn't know anything that happened outside. At the meeting, the plan put forward by the artist brokerage department included poaching some well-known artists to the company. Although the cost of signing a contract was too high, it was much less risky than such uncertain training of newcomers. President Ling, I personally think that the proposal put forward by Manager Wang is reasonable. This year, we have invested in newcomers seriously exceeding the budget. In addition to the problems of the subsidiary in Shanghai, the newcomers can hardly rise, and the profit for the company is almost negligible. We don't know when we can recover the cost of such training, so we should make some stable changes. Ling Han furrowed his brows. The management members of the management department who had made the suggestion were all people who had fought alongside Ling Dongming in the past. Not only were their thoughts old-fashioned, they were also very stubborn. Just the matter of signing a new artist or a popular one had already been discussed countless times in meetings, big and small, but they were all rejected by him. This bunch of elders were already somewhat dissatisfied. And the problem of the training of newcomers on the live broadcast platform in Shanghai had become their topic of gossip. Now they were holding on to it. Chapter 118. Old Tang of the second department glanced at Ling Han and quickly understood. He frowned and stood up. If we sign a popular artist, you all know that the so-called popularity has a time limit. No one knows if the time we sign the contract will be his peak. If we sign the artist, but the artist has a problem in our company, who will bear the loss? Coupled with the public opinion of the fans, this is very unfavorable to the company. What's more, the company already has many popular artists, such as Shang Anren and Guan Nai. The annual profit of these two alone is already very considerable. Manager Wang seemed to have expected that old Tang would talk about Shang Anren and Guan Nai. He laughed and said, Shang Anren and Guan Nai are indeed two popular stars in the limelight now. Indeed, the company's female artists are developing well, but what about the male artists? You know, the foundation of the entertainment market is still female fans. The company's male artists have hardly come up with a single one so far. Is it reasonable? Old Tang glanced at Ling Han and saw the boss frowning. He realized that his attitude was probably still the opposite of Manager Wang's. On one side was the company's veteran, and on the other side was the big boss. No one dared to offend. There was a rustling sound at the office door. Old Tang glanced at the door. Yi Huanyan brought the new intern secretary in and brought in a cup of coffee. As soon as she entered the room, she felt the gloomy atmosphere. She was slightly stunned and quickly understood the meaning of old Tang's gaze. You all must be tired, managers. Have a cup of coffee to refresh yourself. Secretary Dong ordered a meal to fill your stomach later. After that, she turned around and picked up the coffee on the tray in the hand of the secretary behind her and handed it to the managers one by one. Ling Han's voice sounded in the conference room. Uncle Wang, why don't you tell me what kind of male artist you want to sign? Ling Han's words sounded like a loosening of his mouth, but in fact, he was retreating in order to advance. Old Tang was stunned for a few seconds. Suddenly, he woke up and looked at Ling Han with a look of admiration. All artists have black spots. No matter which one Manager Wang said was in the limelight now, he had a reason to object. Manager Wang didn't know that his nephew had set a trap for him and said proudly, speaking of which, you should all know him. The one who just returned to China a while ago is called Su Nianhua. Suddenly, there was a clang in the conference room. It was the sound of porcelain cups colliding. It was not loud, but it was a little harsh. Yi Huanyan apologized in a low voice. She took a tissue and wiped the coffee off the table. When she put down the cup, she accidentally touched the plate under it. No one in the conference room cared about this small incident. However, in the eyes of Ling Han, such a small mistake caused his eyes to become increasingly gloomy. At the conference table, old Tang smiled. Manager Wang, Su Nianhua, I heard that this person... Sure. Old Tang's face stiffened as he turned to look at Ling Han in disbelief. He repeated himself faintly. Su Nianhua, right? Sure. Old Tang frowned, and his tone was a little hurried. President Ling, I heard that this Su Nianhua had already contacted a domestic agency when he was abroad. They gave him many good conditions and even helped to arrange the concert in the end. However, until now, he has not decided which company to sign with. This kind of artist who is too opinionated, for the company, is it not suitable? Besides, signing him should be a very difficult thing to do. Ling Han's gaze was not on him. It faintly fell on Yi Huanyan, who was dressed as an office lady in the corner. She lowered her head, but a trace of worry could be seen in her eyes just now. She was so worried about Su Nianhua's situation. Ling Han sneered in his heart. At all costs, before the end of the year, the person who signs with Su Nianhua can get a first-class reward from the company at the end of the year. As soon as these words were said, there was a lot of discussion in the room. As everyone knew, the pleasure group had a reward and punishment system. The punishment system was very strict, and they could easily pack up and leave. However, in contrast, under such a punishment system, there was also a heavy reward system. The reward system was divided into 10 levels. The employees who did not make any mistakes in the company could receive the 10th level reward at the end of the year. It was not considered a great reward. Last year, the gold medal manager of the second department negotiated with Guan Nai, who was planning to leave the company, to renew his contract for 10 years. At the end of the year, he got the third prize, a single apartment in the main city area. As for the first-class reward, No one in the company had the luck to see what it was. However, it would not be less than the value of a single apartment. The meeting ended. Yi Huanyan stayed behind to tidy up the remaining documents with the intern secretary. Although she did not need to do the cleaning, the company had a cleaning ante. However, the contents of the meeting were confidential documents. They needed to be collected and archived or destroyed with a shredder. Secretary Yi, what do you think of the resolution of this meeting? A cold voice sounded in the meeting room. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked up and saw Ling Han was still there. She passed the collected documents to Xiao Dong. Take these to the shredder first. I will take care of the rest. You don't need to come over. Yes. Sister Yi. Only Yi Huanyan and Ling Han were left in the meeting room. She frowned and continued to tidy up the remaining documents on the table. President Ling, I am not qualified to ask about the meeting. I think you have already made up your mind. When she passed the documents to Ling Han's arm pressed down on the documents. She looked up and met his cold and disdainful eyes. Her thin lips moved slightly, and her tone was cold. Now you are acting like you don't care in front of me. Your acting skills are not bad. Do you want to consider changing to another department and go to the brokerage department to find an agent for you? Yi Huanyan's face changed slightly. President Ling, I don't know what you mean. Stop pretending. You should be happy that Su Nianhua is here for pleasure, right? Dong Xuebing had seen her reaction earlier. Ling Han let go of his arm and passed the documents to Yi Huanyan. He had a sarcastic smile on his face. President Ling, this is the decision of the meeting. It has nothing to do with me. If President Ling wants to say that you made this decision because of me, I don't think I can take the pressure from you. Yi Huanyan did not change her expression and took the documents from Dong Xuebing. I still need to work. Also, Ms. Shang had been waiting for you in the lounge for a long time. I think you should go and have a look. If you don't go now, I am afraid tomorrow's headlines will reveal that Uncle Ling's house is going to be your wedding home. At the mention of the house, Ling Han looked a little embarrassed. He glanced at Yi Huanyan and walked out of the door with his suit jacket. Yi Huanyan looked at his disappearing back and recalled what she had just said. She could not help but purse her lips, and her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Since when did she start to do this kind of thing in front of Ling Han, where she would be jealous of another woman and cause trouble for him? Chapter 119. In the conference room, Yi Huanyan watched Ling Han's figure disappear at the door, and the knot in her eyebrows gradually smoothed out. When she was cleaning up the remaining documents on the table, she was a little powerless, and her heart was always blocked. Why did Ling Han sign Su Nianhua? The meaning of his words just now was that he just wanted to see her reaction by signing the contract, but even if he signed Su Nianhua, the artist brokerage department had never had any contact with her, and there would be no intersection at all. It was ridiculous to say that he wanted to see her reaction. In the lounge of the president's office, Shang Anren was having a good time with the female staff in the office as Mrs. Ling. Although she didn't know how much of those compliments were true or false, they were good to hear in her ears. President Ling. President Ling is good. Ling Han's figure appeared at the door of the lounge, and the people around Shang Anren dispersed. They were all afraid of being used to set an example, so they ran faster than mice. Han. Shang Anren's eyes lit up. She got up and took Ling Han's arm. Why did the meeting take so long? Ling Han frowned and said in a deep voice, I'm very busy today. Aren't you busy with the house decoration? Oh, I just want to ask you something. What's the matter? Ling Han was a little absent-minded. He looked up and saw a familiar figure flashing in the mirror of the lounge. When he turned around, Yi Huanyan had already walked in the direction of the secretary's office in the depths of the corridor. Han. He came back to his senses. What did you just say? Shang Anren's eyes fell on the door, and her eyes were slightly stagnant. I was just asking you why there was a room on the second floor of the house with the door locked. The contractor of the decoration also said that you told him not to touch that room. Today was the first day she went to check on the decoration, but she found that there was a room on the second floor with the door closed, and none of the keys Ling Han gave her could be opened. After asking the contractor, she found out that Ling Han had specifically told her not to touch the house. This made her a little puzzled, but she also found a suitable reason to see Ling Han. At the mention of that room, Ling Han had a strange expression on his face. Cold. Let's talk in the office. After saying this, he pulled his arm out of Shang Anren's hand, put his hands in the pockets of his suit pants, and walked towards the president's office. Following Ling Han, Shang Anren inexplicably felt that he was in a bad mood today. He just finished the meeting. Was it because of the meeting? When he passed by the secretary's office, Ling Han suddenly stopped and said coldly, "Even shredding paper takes so long. No wonder you can't finish your work." Yi Huanyan, who was busy shredding documents with her back to the door, stiffened. She practically bounced around and saw Ling Han. Her expression darkened slightly. "President Ling." "Miss Shang." In front of Ling Han, Shang Anren smiled elegantly and nodded to Yi Huanyan. Ling Han was not polite. "Did the planning department come out with the plan for the annual meeting?" "They sent it here early in the morning. I read it. Because there was a problem with the budget, I asked them to take it back and revise it." "Early in the morning?" Ling Han snorted. "I need to see the general plan before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Secretary Yi, please work hard. Don't look so weak because Secretary Ji left." "Yes, President Ling. Put other things aside first. Send 2 cups of tea in 5 minutes. You should remember Anren's taste." Yi Huanyan's face stiffened slightly, and she lowered her head. Seeing Ling Han's attitude, the smile on Shang Anren's face deepened. She had guessed correctly. Towards this Secretary Yi, Ling Han was only playing around. Who would take a girl who could not be found in a crowd seriously? This woman didn't listen to her advice. Now that Ling Han was annoyed, she was afraid that her job would be difficult to keep. In the president's office, Ling Han took off his suit jacket and put it on the chair. Shang Anren followed him. Her slender fingers held his temples and gently massaged them. Her technique was very skilled. Ling Han was a little unwilling at first, but under her gentle massage, he felt a little comfortable. He temporarily forgot about the troubles in the meeting and slowly closed his eyes. "What's in the room on the second floor of the villa? I think the direction is very good. Why is it locked?" Ling Han leaned on the sofa chair with his eyes closed. His voice was cold, and no emotion could be heard. "It's just a utility room. Don't worry about it. There are so many rooms. Which one do you like? You can choose it yourself." "Really?" Shang Anren looked happy. "Is the big master bedroom on the second floor okay?" "Yes." "I thought it should be your parents' bedroom before. Should I keep it for you?" When it came to his parents, Ling Han opened his eyes and stared at the table for a while. Then he closed his eyes again and said lightly, "Apart from the locked room, you can live anywhere else you want. I want to use the European-style decoration, because the house is larger and has 3 floors. In this way, the European-style decoration is more magnificent." Shang Anren's nagging voice seemed to have a hypnotic effect. With her massage, Ling Han became more and more tired. Just when his eyelids felt heavy, there was a knock on the door of the office. "President Ling, I'll come in and deliver tea." As soon as the voice fell, Ling Han sat up straight and got rid of her palm. "Leave it." Shang Anren looked at Yi Huanyan unpleasantly. It was not easy for her to have such a harmonious opportunity to talk with Ling Han. This woman broke in rashly. It was really annoying. Yi Huanyan put down the tea and turned to leave. She didn't want to stay here any longer. There was a sweet voice with a bit of sarcasm behind her. "Wait a minute." At some point, Shang Anren had picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then she put down the cup and frowned. "Secretary Yi, I never drink tea, and this tea is not fresh, right? It smells moldy." "Miss Shang, the tea in the office is President Ling's favorite mountain tea. Every once in a while, new tea will be sent to replace it. There has never been old tea here. When it came to Ling Han, the smile on Shang Anren's face froze slightly. She glanced at Ling Han from the corner of her eyes. He picked up the cup and drank slowly. There was nothing strange about it. Han, you know I don't like tea very much. Is there any coffee? There are all kinds of coffee in the office. The coffee beans have just been used up, and the logistics department hasn't kept up with the replenishment. Miss Shang might as well try President Ling's favorite tea. She kept saying what President Ling liked, which almost made Shang Anren speechless. She was so angry that her face turned red, and her eyes were burning with anger. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of satisfaction. Holding the tray of tea, she smiled and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll go out first. Call me if you need anything." "Wait a minute." Ling Han's cold voice sounded behind Yi Huanyan. She paused slightly when she was holding the metal door handle. She sighed in her heart and slowly turned around. "What else can I do for President Ling?" Chapter 120. Enren is not used to tea. Make her a cup of coffee according to her taste. President Ling, the logistics haven't replenished the coffee beans. Yi Huanyan frowned and reminded him. Then go out and buy it. After Ling Han dropped this sentence, he seemed to be a little impatient. I have to say such a small thing. How can you be a secretary? Han, don't be angry. Shang Anren comforted Ling Han, but there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. His narrow phoenix eyes swept over Yi Huanyan. Then give me a caramel macchiato. I want the Starbucks on Zhongshan Road. Zhongshan Road. Yi Huanyan frowned and looked at Shang Anren. There's one in the coffee bar downstairs. Why do you want Zhongshan Road? Because I like the one on Zhongshan Road. The taste is unique. Are you looking for trouble? Yi Huanyan's face darkened. Han, this secretary of yours has a really big temper. You know that people are still quite particular about food and clothing. Shang Anren pouted coquettishly, her pair of eyes very charming on Ling Han's body. Zhongshan Road is not far. After hearing this, Yi Huanyan turned around and left without saying anything. Hey, where are you going? Shang Anren asked. Go to Zhongshan Road. The four indignant words floated from the door, and the echo lingered around the office for a long time. Ling Han lowered his head slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised a doting arc that even he didn't notice. Shang Anren sat on the sofa and showed a dissatisfied look. Han, you see, your secretary's attitude is really bad. If she treated the company's customers like this, the customers would have run away long ago. Secretary Yi has a bad temper. Then why do you keep her? Shang Anren looked at Ling Han's face, trying to find something from his face. Ling Han opened the document with a flat face. But she has excellent workability. She can be 10 good-tempered assistants by herself. Shang Anren bit his lip. Even so, don't you find it annoying to keep someone you don't even like by your side? Why don't you ask Assistant Chow to find you someone with outstanding abilities and a good temper? I think she's pleasing to the eye. You've been very close to Chow Mu recently. Shang Anren suddenly felt a chill on his body and looked up at Ling Han's scrutinizing eyes. No, I just thought that you always leave everything to Assistant Chow. It should be the same for things like finding a secretary, right? Besides, I haven't seen Assistant Chow in a while. Her acting skills were not bad. Ling Han scanned her face but did not find anything amiss, so he calmly said, Chow Mu was busy managing the branch company in Shanghai. I see. Shang Anren lowered his head and slowly exhaled. As for my secretary, I don't need anyone to find her pleasing to the eye. I only need her to perform well and bring profits to the company. That's enough. There was no lack of warning in these words. Shang Anren clenched his fingers and nodded embarrassedly. At this time, Yi Huanyan walked out of the pleasure group. Wrapped in a coat, she walked quickly in the cold wind. The skin on her ankles exposed by her high heels was cut by the cold wind. She frowned and glanced at the Starbucks downstairs before walking in without hesitation. What unique taste? Screw your unique taste. I don't believe you can taste where I bought it from. Hello, what do you want? A latte. Drink it here, and a caramel macchiato. Alright, make the caramel macchiato for me in 10 minutes. I'll take it away. It was not lunchtime yet, so the lobby was a bit deserted. Most of the employees in the nearby office buildings came to talk about business or had something to do at the last minute. Yi Huanyan looked around, chose the most remote corner, and sat down with her latte. 10 minutes later, she finished her latte and felt refreshed. She took the packed caramel macchiato from the cashier and nodded to thank the smiling waiter. Then she took a deep breath and rushed out of the Starbucks in the cold wind. Miss Shang, your caramel macchiato. In the office, she raised her eyelids and glanced at Shang Anren, emphasizing, the one on Zhongshan Road. This kind of sullen attitude made Shang Anren feel very comfortable. She opened the lid and took a sip, smiling. Thank you, Secretary Yi. I've always been used to drinking this, so I really can't drink other people's. Yi Huanyan raised her eyebrows. It's good that you like it. After saying this, she went out of the office. At the moment when she closed the office door, she couldn't hold back her laughter. She laughed out loud, scaring the intern Xiao Dong, who was collecting the materials and preparing to enter the secretary's office. Sister Yi, are you all right? I'm all right. Go in. Seeing that it was lunchtime, Shang Anren came out of the secretary's office, holding the so-called Zhongshan Road Starbucks coffee bought by Yi Huanyan. She showed off to Yi Huanyan. Secretary Yi, thank you for the coffee. I'm leaving now. Next time I come here, I will bring you delicious food. Yi Huanyan twitched her mouth and looked at the funny cup of coffee. The more she looked at it, the more she wanted to laugh. Xiao Dong, who was sitting on the swivel chair in the office, turned to Yi Huanyan's desk and was a little curious. Sister Yi, why is Shang Anren so happy today? She looked so reluctant when she left earlier. Yi Huanyan covered her mouth and suddenly laughed so hard that she couldn't stand up straight. Sister Yi, are you all right? Xiao Dong was shocked. I'm fine. I'm fine. Yi Huanyan waved her hand and forced herself to sit up straight. Where's the document for Manager Ling? Give it to me. Xiao Dong nodded dubiously and handed the chronological annual report to Yi Huanyan. Sister Yi, do you want me to go? It's fine. I can go. Yi Huanyan patted her cheeks to make her stiff face look more lively. Then she went to knock on the door of Ling Han's office with the documents in her arms. Come in. Manager Ling, this is this year's financial report and the profit chart. The finance department had made detailed notes. You only need to take a look at it, and you will have a rough idea of the results at the annual meeting. Okay. Then, if there's nothing else, I will go out first. Yi Huanyan put down the document and carefully looked at Ling Han's face. Just as she was about to turn around, she suddenly heard Dong Xuebing's voice. The weather is sub-zero, and the coffee you bought from Zhongshan Road is still hot. Secretary Yi, you are getting better at your job. Yi Huanyan's face froze, and she straightened her neck. It's because Manager Ling taught me well. Really? Look up. Dong Xuebing looked up from his desk, and his eyes were cold. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She had nowhere to hide her gaze from the floor-to-ceiling window behind Ling Han to the entrance of the Starbucks downstairs. Everything was in plain sight. She swallowed her saliva and muttered, Didn't Shang Anren also not taste the difference? Unrepentant. Dong Xuebing said coldly. His face was still calm and emotionless, like a cold statue. Chapter 121. Yi Huanyan was rendered speechless by his words. The main reason was that she did not want to have a conflict with him on the surface. She had suffered too many losses, and she knew how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Ling Han frowned slightly and asked as if he had nothing to say, You also fool your clients like this? Yi Huanyan looked up in shock. I didn't. clients were not as easy to fool as Shang Enren. Ling Han's eyes flashed a trace of regret, and his frown deepened. Seeing that he did not speak, Yi Huanyan was a little nervous and began to let her imagination run wild. When she thought about it, she remembered that it was lunchtime, and she was hungry. When she thought of being hungry, her face changed. The next second, a clear sound rang in the silent office. Goo! Ling Han looked up in surprise, and they looked at each other. The atmosphere suddenly became a little strange. Manager Ling, it's lunchtime. Yi Huanyan reminded him embarrassedly and touched her stomach. I had an appointment with the people in the office to take turns buying food. It's my turn today. What she meant was, if you don't let me go, everyone in the office will have to work for you with hungry stomachs. This way, it will be inefficient. If there is nothing else, I will go and buy food first. She smiled embarrassedly and was ready to slip away. A voice came from behind her. Buy me a portion. For a moment, she thought she had misheard. Stiffly, she turned around and asked, Huh? Until she met with Ling Han's cold eyes, she regained her senses and nodded. Then she walked away in a pair of 12 centimeters high heels. Xiaodong, let's go and buy food. A voice came from the assistant group's cubicle. Secretary Yi, Xiaodong has already gone to line up. You go quickly. We are all starving. Right away, right away. I'm sorry, everyone. Boss Ling wants to ask me something. The reason for the assistant group of the president's office and the secretary's office to take turns buying food was that after the Bali holiday, the auntie who cooked in the cafeteria went home on leave and replaced the uncle who cooked. The uncle was probably a northerner and was very heavy-handed. Everyone who ate his food suffered unspeakably. In the afternoon, when their mouths were dry, they had to gulp down water. After gulping down water, they had to go to the toilet. There was a time when the toilet was full. In a high-efficiency environment like Pleasure, the most important assistant group couldn't tolerate such things that delayed their work. Therefore, after returning from their vacation in Bali, the assistant group decided to take turns going to a new Chinese restaurant nearby to buy food after 2 days of eating. Today, it was Yi Huanyan and Xiaodong's turn. When Yi Huanyan arrived, it was already Xiaodong's turn. It's 12 servings, right? The loud voice of the Chinese restaurant's owner came from the window. Xiaodong was about to say something but was interrupted by Yi Huanyan. Lady boss, we will add 1 more serving today. 13 servings. Okay. Xiaodong was surprised and turned around. Sister Yi, who else wants to eat? Director Ling. Yi Huanyan twitched her lips and gave a look of, do you believe it? I don't even dare to believe it, expression. Oh, lady boss, one of the servings of vegetables, other than oil and salt, don't put anything else. Don't put scallions, ginger, garlic, and any other chopped ingredients. The lady boss's expression was still good at the start. She remembered what Yi Huanyan said and repeated it to the chef behind her. But when she heard what Yi Huanyan said, her face got darker. Miss Yi, you ordered chopped green onions and scrambled eggs today. Can you tell me why you didn't add scallions? Yi Huanyan paused for a second and asked, why don't you use a whole stalk of chopped green onions to scramble eggs? Xiaodong saw the lady boss's angry face and pulled Yi Huanyan from behind. He whispered, Sister Yi, are you kidding me? The lady boss is going to hit someone. Yi Huanyan suddenly found that there was something wrong with the landlady's expression. Blue veins stood out on the back of her hand that was holding the disposable chopsticks. Her eyes widened, and she quickly waved her hand and smiled embarrassedly. Ha ha ha. I am just saying. You can do whatever you want. While Xiaodong was surprised by the lady boss's pickiness, the Chinese restaurant's lady boss packed 13 servings of fast food. She divided the food into 4 bags so that 2 people can carry 1 bag each. She ran to the office with the lunchboxes in her hands. The assistant team consciously carried the lunchboxes they had received to the balcony to eat. Although the company's rule against eating in the office had been broken when the afternoon snacks were distributed, this was the president's office after all. No one dared to use something as smelly as fast food to pluck the tiger's beard in his face. Yi Huanyan looked at the 2 servings of fast food in her hands and walked to the president's office. Director Ling, here is your lunch. Yi Huanyan knocked on the door and waved the bag of fast food in her hand. Yes. I put it here. You can eat it yourself. I will. Stop right there. Ling Han stood up and walked to the coffee table. He looked at Dong Xuebing impatiently. Sit down and eat. Do you think the company gave you too much time to eat? Seeing that Ling Han had already opened the lunchbox, Yi Huanyan's expression froze and she stepped forward. You don't need to. What is this? Yi Huanyan sighed in her heart and turned to look at the 3 dishes in front of Ling Han. Fried eggs with chopped green onions, minced meat and eggplant, and braised pork ribs. I don't eat green onions, ginger and garlic. Ling Han replied. I know. But the Chinese restaurants around here are like this. Director Ling, you are the one who insisted. Yi Huanyan looked into Ling Han's eyes. She swallowed her saliva. How about this? Can I help you pick them out? 5 minutes later, Yi Huanyan held her sore wrist and decided not to eat fried eggs with chopped green onions for the rest of her life. Picking out all the chopped green onions from the fried eggs with chopped green onions was the most tiring job in the world. The second tiring job was to pick out the minced meat and the minced garlic from the eggplant. Dong Xuebing was mentally and physically exhausted. When she finished picking out the ingredients and ate the entire lunchbox in front of Ling Han, she would find Ling Han looking at her with a faint smile. That kind of gentle look was rare. Director Ling, I'm done eating. Can I leave first? Yi Huanyan almost didn't look at Ling Han. She packed up her lunchbox and stood beside the coffee table with her head down. Yes. Then leave it here after you finish eating. I will come and clean it up. Yes. Ling Han didn't seem to care about what she said at all. He picked up the glass of water beside him and slowly drank a mouthful of water. When she left, she noticed from the corner of her eye that Ling Han hadn't touched the dishes she picked out in his lunchbox. It was probably not to his taste. Why would a picky person like him eat fast food? It was probably a whim. After she left, Ling Han picked up the chopped, fried eggs with chopped green onions and put it into his mouth. After chewing slowly, he picked up a large piece of rice. It tasted good. From the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the restaurant logo on the bag. It was He Ji Chinese Restaurant. When he went to the bathroom just now, he seemed to have heard a few people in the assistant group discussing that the cafeteria seemed to be lacking a chef recently. Chapter 122. Fujin Park Villa District. The renovation team had been going in and out of the Yuanling family's 3-story mansion for the past few days. In order to keep an eye on the renovation, Shang Anren put off several jobs at hand and wholeheartedly stayed at home to keep an eye on them. The people in the renovation team were all found by Qiao Mu. Although the people Qiao Mu found were always reliable, Shang Anren was still worried. After all, this was the house where Ling Han used to live. If anything happened, she could not bear the responsibility. Hey, where's the statue at the door? She stood at the door wearing a mask and waved the dust in front of her as she questioned the worker who was busy moving the living room furniture out. The worker frowned. What statue? I don't know. Hey, how can you not know? I put it at the entrance when I came. It's that artistic human statue. You don't know, you don't know. We can't be the ones who took away such a big statue, right? Hey, you're talking. Miss Shang. A clear male voice interrupted the two's argument from afar. Qiao Mu walked up in a suit and glanced at Shang Anren with a smile. What's wrong? The statue at the door is gone. They've been going in and out of here for the past 2 days. When I asked them, they said they didn't know. Shang Anren snorted. I think these people's hands and feet are not very clean. Qiao Mu frowned and waved her hand to dismiss the indignant worker. Then she looked at Shang Anren and sighed. Young master told me to put away the statue yesterday at noon. He said that you were going to renovate the new house. According to the renovation style, the furnishings and decorations were all bought and put away in the warehouse, along with the old furniture. Is that so? Shang Anren was taken aback. He didn't tell me. Chow Mu smiled with concern in her eyes. Miss Shang, I think you'd better not stay here. Why don't you go to the second floor? There's a lot of dust here. It's not a big deal to dirty your clothes, but it won't be good if the workers stumble around and trip you. It's fine. I have to watch them finish the renovation personally. Otherwise, I'm afraid they'll cut corners. Shang Anren waved her hand with a nonchalant expression. Chow Mu looked at her with a strange gaze and was absent-minded for a few seconds. Hey, make way, make way. A few workers carried the paint used to paint the walls as they walked past. Although they used good paint, they couldn't avoid the pungent smell. Shang Enren was facing several workers with his back, but he couldn't move the 12-centimeter high-heeled shoes under his feet. As soon as he turned around, he staggered and fell toward the bucket of paint on the wall. Chow Mu was quick to react and reached out to grab her wrist. She pulled with all her might and barely pulled her over the paint bucket. Her high heels snapped at the base with a crack. Are you okay? Chow Mu looked down at the woman in her arms with concern. She practically instinctively broke free, but she stumbled again and fell back into Chow Mu's arms. Damn it! She lowered her head and looked at the broken heel of her shoe. Chow Mu creased her brows and looked around. Right now, the workers were all busy in the backyard, so no one was paying attention to her. She simply steeled her heart and directly carried her up to the second floor. Ah! What are you doing? Shang Enren screamed and abruptly covered her mouth, afraid that she would attract the workers' attention. When they reached the second floor, she struggled out of Chow Mu's arms and landed on the large bed in the master bedroom. She angrily rebuked in a low voice, "Assistant Chow, what are you doing? Pay attention to your status. Sit here for a while. I'll go find you a pair of shoes. There are too many people downstairs." Chow Mu's expression was indifferent, seemingly without any fluctuations in emotion. Shang Enren was momentarily at a loss for words. Looking at his tall and straight back, her throat seemed to be blocked by something. After a while, she awkwardly moved her lips and spoke in an extremely quiet voice. "Thank you." After closing the door, Chow Mu's stiff back gradually relaxed. The residual warmth in his chest made his heart beat non-stop. He slowly exhaled with furrowed brows, his expression a bit gloomy. 5 minutes later, the door opened. Chow Mu held a pair of cotton slippers in one hand and a cup of water in the other. After putting down the cup, he placed the slippers on the floor. "I found it in the entrance. The label was just cut, so it's new." Shang Enren nodded. After changing into the slippers, she picked up the cup by the bed and drank a mouthful of water. "Thank you." "You're welcome. Director Ling instructed me to take care of your matters, so this is what I should do." Chow Mu's voice was light and indifferent, without any discernible emotion. Shang Enren sighed and said, "What exactly is Ling Han capable of? His assistants and secretaries are all weirdos." Chow Mu did not know whether this was a compliment or a disparagement, but he did not comment and clenched his fingers. "Then Miss Shang, you can rest here. I'll go downstairs to check on the renovation." Shang Enren wanted to dig a swimming pool in the backyard for parties. All kinds of water pipes buried under the original empty space had to be replanned. This project was truly a bit huge, and this house could not be inhabited for at least 2 months. "Hey, wait a minute." Shang Enren paced 2 steps and called out to Chow Mu. Seeing him turn around, Shang Enren pursed her lips and pointed at a room at the other end of the corridor next to the washroom. "Assistant Chow, do you know what that room is used for?" The room she was pointing at was the utility room that Ling Han mentioned, the room that he told her to ignore. However, her woman's intuition told her that there must be something strange about that room. Chow Mu followed her gaze, and when she saw the tightly shut door, she creased her brows. "Director Ling didn't tell you?" Tell me what?" Shang Enren observed his expression, trying to catch something. Chow Mu stared at the door for a few seconds. "Nothing, it's just a utility room for storing things. Since Director Ling locked it, it means that it's better not to touch it easily." Curiosity is not a good thing. Hey, what are you saying? Miss Shang, that's all I have to say. Please rest well. After saying this, Xiao Mu went downstairs without looking back. Looking at Xiao Mu's back, Shang Yanren frowned and looked at the room. She was more and more confused. Who would put a utility room on the second floor where the sun rose? What exactly was inside? The curtain of night gradually fell. In the pleasure group, except for the technical department, the lights on the other floors were turned off one by one. After working overtime at her desk to organize the documents for the afternoon meeting, Yi Huanyan closed her laptop and stretched. She slowly exhaled and looked at the intern Xiao Dong, who was originally sitting in Ji Xiaoya's seat. Xiao Dong, I'll do the rest. You can get off work. Xiao Dong was slightly taken aback, and then she revealed a joyful expression. Thank you, Sister Yi. Yi Huanyan smiled and winked. Don't make your boyfriend wait. Xiao Dong had been doing odd jobs in the assistant group for more than a year. Her boyfriend would come to pick her up from work every night, rain or shine. This was something that everyone in the president's office knew. She was a bit embarrassed. Sister Yi, you're teasing me again. No, I'm really envious of you. Sister Yi is so eligible. Your boyfriend must be very outstanding, right? This question made Yi Huanyan's smile gradually disappear. Chapter 123. When Yi Huanyan did not reply, Xiao Dong turned around and asked, Sister Yi, don't tell me you haven't had a boyfriend yet? Yi Huanyan had a smile on her face. Yes. For some reason, Xiao Dong felt uncomfortable when she saw this smile. She carried her bag and said embarrassedly, Sister Yi must have high standards. I wonder who is a good match for someone like you. Yi Huanyan was speechless. Let's go. How long do you want your boyfriend to wait downstairs? Xiao Dong nodded and walked to the door with her bag. Suddenly, she saw someone standing in the shadows. She trembled and supported herself against the wall to calm herself down. Ling. Manager Ling. Why are you still here? Ling Han's expression was inexplicably gloomy. He glanced at her and said coldly, I have something to do. Then, I will not disturb you. Okay. After Dong Xuebing got the permission, Xiao Dong ran away as fast as a mouse. Ling Han stood in front of the secretary's office and looked at the woman behind the glass door. Dong Xuebing remembered how that woman admitted she did not have a boyfriend earlier. He pushed the door open and entered the office. Yi Huanyan did not look up. She still needs some time to sort out the meeting notes. When she heard footsteps, she thought it was Xiao Dong. Did you forget something? Why are you so forgetful? She lowered her head and asked casually. A shadow swept in front of her, blocking a portion of the light. The smell of alcohol made her frown and raise her head. In an instant, she was under the shadow of a huge figure. Her heart immediately panicked. Manager Ling, why are you so unhappy to see me? Ling Han glanced at her from across the desk, his eyes cold and clear. Yi Huanyan reacted quickly. She slowly exhaled and said faintly, I am just a little surprised. Manager Ling, didn't you get off work 2 hours ago? You should be having dinner tonight. You seem to know a lot. Ling Han snorted. Then why are you here? Why did he come back? I came back to look for something. After saying this, he turned around. Yi Huanyan immediately felt that the smell of alcohol in front of her had mostly dissipated. It seemed that he hadn't drunk much. He took 2 steps forward and sat on the sofa opposite her. He stared straight at Yi Huanyan. She felt uncomfortable being stared at by him and asked, President Ling, do you need some water? Yes. She quickly got some water and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. President Ling, your tea. Ah. Her wrist was suddenly grabbed, and she felt a cold sensation. His hand was very cold. Secretary Yi, were you and Secretary Dong talking about boyfriends just now? What did you say? Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. No, nothing. Secretary Dong is asking if you have a boyfriend. Yes. A trace of sadness flashed through Yi Huanyan's eyes. She tried to break free from Ling Han's grasp, but to no avail. You said you don't have one. Ling Han grabbed her arm and refused to let her go. His gaze was like a knife, cutting Yi Huanyan's emotions inch by inch. Yi Huanyan furrowed her brows. She raised her head and looked straight at that naked and slightly drunk gaze. Is it wrong? President Ling Han was at a loss for words when she questioned him like this. It was as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat, making his chest feel stuffy. With a sudden tug of his hand, he pulled her into his embrace. The faint smell of alcohol filled his embrace and drowned Yi Huanyan's entire body. She struggled for a moment and said in a low voice, "Let go of me. You don't have a boyfriend, but you have me." His panting voice came from above her head. It was hoarse and somewhat hazy. It was very charming and made people lose themselves. She raised her head and revealed a startled expression, as if she wanted to ask what he meant by that. A strong aroma of wine assailed her nostrils, followed by an ice-cold sensation on her lips. He gently caressed her softness, absorbing her hot kiss and moist moisture. His tongue snaked in, deftly parting her teeth, entangling with the clove in her mouth, stirring up clouds and rain with one turn. The white office lady's shirt wrapped around her plump upper body was peeled off inch by inch under his skillful hands, revealing the skin that was as bright as the moonlight outside the window. A large hand rubbed the black stockings on her calves, and then sneaked into the black wrap dress unsatisfactorily, removing all obstacles. The woman exclaimed and looked at the open glass door in a panic. She shouted in a hoarse voice, "Don't," and the last trace of reason collapsed under the man's skillful teasing during this period of time. Her eyes were intoxicated, her cheeks glowed with a pink luster, and she let out an intoxicating moan. There was enough foreplay, and there was not much pain when entering. She even had a feeling that she could not wait, which made her feel faintly ashamed. But after a few rounds of sex, she found that what really made her ashamed was not only that. The floor-to-ceiling window of the secretary's office was facing the high-rise buildings in the main city area, bustling with neon lights. He clasped her hands and pressed her against the glass window with the back of her hands, taking her over and over again. He was not stingy with her smooth, jade-like body on the high platform of the 20th floor of the office building, letting the night view her. After a round of taking, her lips were red, and her pearly white teeth bit off the lipstick. There was a circle of red around her lips, which had a kind of lazy and messy beauty, which made people obsessed. Her sweet and sexy facial features were reflected in the glass window. The eyes of the man behind her deepened a little. He held her waist and gathered his strength to attack. "Ah!" She breathed out hot air and sprinkled on the glass window, making it dense. White smoke rose in spirals in the secretary's office. She collapsed on the carpet, her clothes in a mess. She looked at Ling Han with a confused look. Tonight, he was so gentle that she was so confused that she was willing to do such a shameful thing in such an unshielded place. At this moment, his passion was exhausted. He sat on the sofa and smoked. It seemed that he had returned to his original state. He was cold and not close to the smoke and fire. It seemed that what had just happened at the bedside was just an illusion of his own. Do you know how to answer when someone asks you if you have a boyfriend in the future? He suddenly asked, and his face could not be seen clearly in the smoke and fire. Yi Huanyan was buttoning her shirt with her head down. Suddenly, she was asked the first topic. She was slightly stunned and looked up at him. After a while, she asked uncertainly, "Are we boyfriend and girlfriend?" With Shang Anren between the two of them, she couldn't even be considered a mistress. But his attitude made her look forward to it. "Is it so important?" He sneered and squinted at her. "We've done what we should do and shouldn't do. If you still pretend to be innocent in front of others and say that you haven't been in love and haven't slept with a man, it will make me feel hypocritical. It will also make me wonder if you are not satisfied with your current life." She lowered her head again and clenched the clothes on her chest. "I see." Chapter 124. Lonjiang City, Garden Hotel Apartment. After Su Nianhua finished the last concert, he was exhausted. As soon as he returned to the suite, he collapsed on the sofa and had no strength to move. His agent, Li Dolly, next to him, massaged his legs and shoulders and whispered all kinds of good words in his ear. Li Dolly saw the caller ID on the table and a strange look flashed across his eyes. "Brother Hua, your phone is ringing. You answer it." Su Nianhua waved his hand weakly. He did not seem to care who was calling. "What if it is Miss Yi? It is not appropriate for me to answer the call." Su Nianhua opened his eyes when he heard the words Miss Yi. He picked up the phone. "Hello." "Hello." After hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, Su Nianhua glanced at Li Dolly with a strange look in his eyes. "I don't think I need it now." Before hanging up the phone, Su Nianhua only said this one sentence. "Who is it?" Li Dolly asked. Su Nianhua took his coat from the sofa and walked towards the bedroom. "It is not Yi Huanyan." Li Dolly looked at Dong Xuebing's back view and had a meaningful look. The annual award ceremony was imminent. The planning department had submitted their proposals several times, but none of them reached Ling Han. Yi Huanyan had rejected all the proposals. 1 month before the annual award ceremony, the planning department staff would avoid Yi Huanyan like mice avoiding a cat. "Sister Yi, is this annual award ceremony really so important?" Dong Xuebing asked after seeing the planning department staff getting scolded by Yi Huanyan for the umpteenth time in a week. "It is very important. No matter what you do, you must be one of the top 3 most searched celebrities on the day of the annual award ceremony. This is an unwritten rule since the inception of pleasure." Yi Huanyan knew Xiao Dong had just joined the company for a year and had not attended the previous year's annual award ceremony. That's why he was not familiar with this event. When the time comes, several big partners who have close cooperation with Pleasure and Pleasure will come, and all the artists in Pleasure and Pleasure will also participate. Just the ranking of the artists in the group photo alone may cause gossip online, so we have to be careful. "I understand." Xiao Dong nodded. "Anyway, we cannot make any mistakes. This annual award ceremony is the focus of everyone's attention." "You could say that." After saying this, Yi Huanyan took the teacup to the pantry to pour some tea. While waiting for the coffee, her phone vibrated. She took out her phone and glanced at it. It was Su Nianhua. On the other end of the phone, Su Nianhua's voice was very gentle. "Yan Yan, my concert is over. Are you free today? Let's have dinner together. I have to work overtime tonight, so I don't think I can." She raised her wrist and glanced at it. It was almost lunchtime. "I only have about half an hour of lunch break. I'm afraid I can't make it." "It's fine. I will look for you. I am near your company, but I don't know which building you are working in." Yi Huanyan frowned and looked out of the window subconsciously. "Well, I get off work at 12 o'clock. There is a Hong Kong-style tea restaurant on the first floor. It's across the street from the alley where you met Xiaoye and me last time. If you get there first, find a remote seat and wait for me." "Sure." The restaurant that Yi Huanyan chose was one of the more deserted ones among the office buildings in the main city. Because of this, it was suitable for a well-known person like Su Nianhua to hide his identity. She does not want to experience the incident of being chased by fans a second time. At 12 a.m., Yi Huanyan told her assistants in the cubicle, "Don't buy my meals today." She grabbed her bag and ran to the elevator. Everyone looked at each other. While waiting for the elevator, someone joked, "Secretary Yi, are you going on a date?" Yi Huanyan spread her hands helplessly. "Do you think half an hour is enough for a date? At most, it is enough for me to go out and eat." "You want to eat alone, Secretary Yi." When the elevator reached the floor, Yi Huanyan waved her hand while getting on the elevator. Okay, I will bring you desserts when I come back." The assistants were usually serious at work, but after work, they were very happy. Hearing this, the office was filled with cheers. Ahem. Someone coughed. Everyone in the cubicle suddenly saw Ling Han walking out of the corridor and looking at them calmly. President Ling, you haven't gone for lunch yet? Someone asked boldly. Ling Han glanced at the elevator. Secretary Yi is going out for lunch? Yes, she just left. Xiao Zhang from the assistant team said. She looked at Ling Han's face and asked carefully, President Ling, why are you looking for Secretary Yi? Nothing. After saying these two words, Ling Han turned around and went back to his office. Everyone in the cubicle looked at each other. In the Hong Kong-style restaurant between the office buildings, there was no hubbub of people at noon like the surrounding shops. Most people were directly scared away by the amount of money recommended by the chef at the door. Other than the boss, there was probably no white-collar worker in the central business district who was willing to spend more than 1,000 yuan for lunch at work. This restaurant had been open for so many years and had not closed down yet. It was a big wonder. As soon as Yi Huanyan entered, she saw Su Nianhua sitting in the corner wearing a mask and a cap. He waved his hand. She looked around and made sure no one was following her before she walked over. You said you didn't have much time, so I ordered for you. You don't mind, right? It's okay, my taste is the same as before. Yi Huanyan took off her coat and put it on the sofa. Your concert has just ended, right? Yes, this year's concert tour has ended. Originally, there were 2 more concerts in Xiqing, but the manager was afraid that I would be too tired and hoped that I could protect my voice before the end of the year, so it was temporarily postponed until after the new year. That's good. Brother Dolly is really thinking for you. There is still about a month before the new year. Are you going home? Yi Huanyan slowly raised her head and looked at the loneliness in his eyes. I didn't do it on purpose. He had told her before that in order to leave his family, he had been wandering abroad alone and had not contacted his family for a long time. It's okay. Su Nianhua smiled slightly. I think they don't want to see me go back. They won't. Yi Huanyan frowned. Auntie must want to see you go home for the new year. In fact, so many years have passed, and now you have realized your dream, your relationship with your family should be better. As a child, when you grow up, how many chances do you have to lower your head to your parents? Su Nianhua's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. Do you really think my parents want me to go back? Before Yi Huanyan could answer, a rapid ringtone interrupted their conversation. She hurriedly found her phone in her coat pocket, looked at Su Nianhua apologetically, and hesitantly pressed the answer button. Bring you lunch. Yi Huanyan's surprised expression made Su Nianhua slightly stunned. Chapter 125. Then what do you want to eat? Whatever. A cold voice came from the other end of the phone. It was a very short and simple reply. Oh, okay. After hanging up the phone, Yi Huanyan frowned as if she did not understand. She looked down at her phone for a while. After all, she had never had to worry about Ling Han's meals. Most of the time, Qiao Mu would prepare them, and when Qiao Mu was not around, she would instruct the assistant team to prepare them. What's wrong? Su Nianhua's concerned question came from the front. Yi Huanyan came back to her senses. Nothing. My boss told me to pack a lunch to bring back. Su Nianhua was slightly taken aback. He remembered the man he saw near Jinjiang Park when he just returned to China. Your boss is the one who drove you to the company from your house last time, right? He's quite young. Hearing this, Yi Huanyan's eyes froze, and she responded vaguely, forget about him. Just pack a lunch for him later. He's very picky. He doesn't eat scallions, ginger, and garlic. He also has all kinds of special requirements for sweet and salty food. It's so troublesome. She lowered her head to eat, and a strange look flashed through Su Nianhua's eyes. You seem to have a good relationship with your boss. Yi Huanyan was drinking water. Hearing this, she choked and coughed. Ahem. Why do you ask? You seem to know him very well. Avoiding Su Nianhua's gaze, she breathed a sigh of relief. It's nothing. I'm a secretary, so I naturally have to know more about my boss. Hurry up and eat. She looked up to urge Su Nianhua, but when she saw his tightly covered face mask, she was stunned. Their eyes met, and the two burst out laughing at almost the same time. How are you going to eat with a mask on? Yi Huanyan held back her laughter. She was a bit embarrassed because she was so focused on eating that she did not notice such a big problem. Su Nianhua raised his eyebrows with a helpless expression. I'll just watch you eat. If the previous situation of being surrounded happens again, I'm afraid you won't be willing to eat with me next time. How embarrassing. Su Nianhua glanced at her half-eaten French-baked rice and smiled dotingly. I don't think so. Following his gaze, Yi Huanyan lowered her head to look at her plate. She suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Time was of the essence, so she had to eat quickly. After the meal, she waved for the waiter to pack a sandwich, a pineapple bun, and a cup of coffee. Originally, she had other things, but she looked at the time. She had to rush back before 12:30, so it would be faster to pack these things. While the waiter was packing, she chatted with Su Nianhua for a while. If you don't want to go home this month, what are you going to do? I don't know yet. Su Nianhua leaned on the sofa and seemed to be a little hesitant. I haven't signed with a company yet. Brother Li seems to be in contact with an artist agency recently. I received a call 2 days ago. If it's suitable before the end of the year, I might sign with a company. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Thinking of the decision made at the company's executive meeting, she felt uncertain and could not predict what would happen. Ling Han said that he would sign with Su Nianhua at all costs, which made her break out in cold sweat for Su Nianhua. She hesitated. When you sign the contract, you have to pay attention to the terms of the contract. Many of the domestic agency's terms do not protect the artist. It's okay, Brotherly is here. If you sign with a new company, will Brotherly still follow you? Yi Huanyan frowned. Yes, Brotherly has been with me for a few years. I'm used to it. Yi Huanyan could not remind him too much about his position. She just felt that Su Nianhua seemed to be too relaxed about signing a contract. If it was really like what Ling Han said and signed with pleasure at all costs, then the team around him would definitely change. Lu Shen, you. Miss, your takeaway is ready. The waiter's reminder interrupted Yi Huanyan's words. She took the packed lunch and looked at Su Nianhua meaningfully. However, she did not continue what she wanted to say. I'm leaving first. I still have to go to work. Take care of your own matters. Okay, it's about time. I should go too. Looking at Yi Huanyan's back, Su Nianhua was stunned for a while. He suddenly remembered that he forgot to ask which company she worked at. President's Office of Pleasure Group. Yi Huanyan ran back in her 10 centimeters nude high heels. She held the door handle of the president's office and panted for a while. After she gradually calmed down, she knocked on the door a few times. President Ling, I brought back the packed lunch. Okay, leave it there. As soon as Yi Huanyan entered the door, she saw Ling Han sitting on the sofa and reading the newspaper. This leisurely attitude did not seem like the state of the busy company at the end of the year. She put down the bag and took out the packed food one by one. Ling Han's eyes looked over the newspaper and fell on the food. He frowned slightly. You changed restaurants today? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Yes, the Hong Kong-style tea restaurant nearby. The food is pretty good. Ling Han's eyes fell on the simple meal that was obviously for one person. His expression was slightly serious. After putting down the simple meal, Yi Huanyan stood up straight. President Ling, please enjoy. I'm going to work first. Where's yours? A brief questioning voice came from behind her. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. The high heels under her feet turned slightly, and she faced the man on the sofa again. I ate at the restaurant. Ling Han frowned slightly, but he did not say anything. President Ling, do you have any other orders? Then You ate alone. Facing this aggressive questioning, Yi Huanyan's heart tightened for no reason. With a friend. A friend. Ling Han looked up and his scrutinizing gaze fell on Yi Huanyan. She wore light makeup today, which made her look good. She was wearing a beige professional suit that set off her elegance and calmness. This outfit was a little dazzling at this moment. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked a little unfriendly. The atmosphere was inexplicably tense, which made Yi Huanyan feel a sense of danger and vigilance. She felt inexplicably guilty in her heart. She did not know why, but she blurted out a lie. "It's Xiao Yu. She came to have dinner with me today." The quiet atmosphere was suddenly broken by her voice. Ling Han looked at her with slightly restrained eyes. He snorted coldly with an indifferent attitude. "Explain what? If I have to ask about this kind of thing, I'm afraid this year's annual meeting won't be held until the end of next year." Yi Huanyan looked at him blankly. Seeing his indifference, she nodded doubtfully. In addition, she felt guilty, so she did not dare to ask more questions. She simply went out of the president's office. When she turned around, she did not notice that there was a flash of a smile in the cold eyes behind her. Fujin Garden Villa area. Shang Enren stood beside a prototype swimming pool in the backyard. Her high heels swayed on the grass. She raised her noble head slightly and looked sharply at the window on the second floor. Chapter 126. Not long after, old Zhang, the contractor of the renovation team, rushed over. He didn't have time to change into his work clothes. He looked much more refreshed than usual. He was sweating profusely and panting. "Miss Shang, didn't you say you wouldn't work today?" Shang Anren glanced at him, took out a stack of banknotes from her wallet, and handed it to him. "Yes, I'm not working. I need your help." Seeing the banknotes, old Zhang's eyes suddenly lit up, but he didn't dare to take them casually. "What's the matter? Miss Shang, just say it." "Bring me the ladder over there." Following Shang Anren's gaze, old Zhang saw the stainless steel ladder lowered into the pool pit and was slightly stunned. "You are..." "I have something that I left in the room on the second floor. I accidentally locked the door and couldn't find the key, so please help me take a look." Shang Anren's voice was somewhat meaningful. Old Zhang frowned and looked at the ladder, then at the window on the second floor. He remembered what Assistant Qiao had told him before. "Miss Shang, Mr. Qiao told us not to move that room." "I didn't ask you to move. Just help me see if there's anything inside from the window." "This." Seeing old Zhang's hesitant look, Shang Anren immediately showed an impatient look. She took out a stack of nearly 10,000 banknotes from her wallet and stuffed them into old Zhang's arms. "Okay, you do it. You're decorating for me, not for Assistant Qiao. Do you understand?" It would be difficult to hand over the money that was in his hands. Old Zhang made up his mind and put the money into his chest pocket. He nodded like he was pounding garlic. "Okay, Miss Shang, please make way. I'll move the ladder for you now." Old Zhang climbed the ladder to the window on the second floor and pulled the window according to Shang Anren's instructions. He turned around and said helplessly with a bitter face, "Miss Shang, this window is locked. There are curtains inside. I can't see anything." Shang Anren stood under the ladder and stared at old Zhang with her hands on her hips. "You won't smash it." Old Zhang's face was flustered. "Oh, Miss Shang, I don't dare." Shang Anren frowned. "What dare? You're so cowardly. Wait for me. I'll find you a brick." After saying this, she didn't care about old Zhang's objection. She casually picked up a red brick beside the pool, weighed it twice, and lifted it to the side of the ladder. "Come down and take it." "That won't do, Miss Shang. I can't break the glass. What I put inside is more valuable than this glass. Hurry up and come down. Can you find a locksmith? Are you going to smash it or not?" Shang Anren frowned. "If you don't smash it, I'll smash it." As she spoke, she raised the brick and threw it at the window. A brick weighing 2 to 3 catties was thrown out by her hand. It didn't even reach her height before it fell to the ground. Old Zhang, who was high up, was frightened by Shang Anren's momentum and exclaimed. His hands left the ladder and hugged his arms reflexively. At this time, his feet slipped, and he slid down the ladder. The stainless steel ladder was shaking on the grass. Finally, it collapsed with a bang in the midst of Shang Anren's frightened exclamation with her eyes wide open. Ah! Shang Anren's scream sounded in the courtyard. Oh, Miss Shang. Oh my God. It's bleeding. What should I do? Ah! You sit down first. I will call Mr. Chow. In the office of the president of the Pleasure Group, Su Mang, the editor-in-chief of Fengshang, came with 2 sets of dresses for Ling Han to try on. Sister Su Mang, I haven't seen you for a long time. You are so busy, but you still bother to come here in person. Yi Huanyan's eyes passed over Su Mang's shoulder and fell on Ji Xiaoye, who was carrying 2 suits behind her. Ji Xiaoye exchanged a look with her. They had a tacit understanding. Su Mang smiled slightly. The silver sequined hip-hugging skirt glittered under the office light. She wore the most popular lace suspenders on the outside of the white shirt. She looked just like the editor-in-chief of a fashion magazine. Secretary Yi is still as beautiful as before. I made an appointment with President Ling before. We have something to talk about. By the way, I will bring the clothes he will wear in the annual meeting to try on. The size can be changed in advance. Okay. President Ling is inside. Yi Huanyan opened the door and welcomed Su Mang in. Sister Su Mang, why do you come in person? Ling Han stood up and showed a rare smile. I haven't seen you for a long time. You made an appointment to renew the contract with us before. But the contract hasn't been signed yet. I come here to renew the contract on purpose. Su Mang blinked. She was over 40 years old, but she still had a clear and cunning innocence when she smiled. According to Su Mang's instructions, Ji Xiaoye put the 2 suits on the sofa and then left the office with Yi Huanyan, leaving Su Mang to talk with Ling Han. As soon as they left the office, Ji Xiaoye seemed to be relaxed all over. She swung her 2 sore arms and gave Yi Huanyan a big bear hug. My Yan, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Okay. This is the corridor. The assistant group is watching. Come to my office and sit down. Yi Huanyan broke away from her claws and pinched her face. As soon as they returned to the secretary's office, Xiao Dong served Ji Xiaoye tea and water very sensibly. He called her Sister Xiao Yu, and behaved like a humble and honest junior. Looking at Ji Xiaoye's enjoyment, Yi Huanyan leaned against her desk with a cup of water. Look at you. Do you regard your old company as a foot spa shop? How is the new company? Are you satisfied? Not bad. Except that I am a little tired and have to be ordered around by the she-devil all day long, everything else is quite good. It was obvious that the she-devil was Su Mang. She was already in her 40s, but she was still standing tall in the fashion industry. In addition to her unique and innovative vision and accurate grasp of the market, she also had extraordinary communication skills and business acumen. She had single-handedly cultivated the 5 famous domestic models on the international stage, and there were countless well-known models under Fengshang. Those awesome people always had some eccentricities. Everyone in the circle knew that Su Mang was a person who treated her subordinates extremely strictly. She was so strict that she was abnormal. You don't know that the clothes she gave me were the smallest size. On the first day I entered the company, she told me that I couldn't squeeze myself into that dress within a week, so she asked me to pack up my things and get out. Yi Huanyan sighed. Looking at Ji Xiaoye's obviously thin cheeks, he clicked his tongue in wonder. No wonder I see that your figure has improved a lot recently. I was forced to. In the president's office, Ling Han had just changed into a suit and stood in front of the mirror. Su Mang was helping him to tidy up his bow tie personally. She seemed to be very satisfied with this work. After Ling Han put on the suit, she touched her chin and nodded with appreciation. Your figure is inherited from your father. It is the frame of your clothes. I have asked someone to send out the invitation to the charity banquet next week. You have to come to support me. Chapter 127. You will dance the opening dance. Su Mang smiled at her in the mirror. Sister, Shouldn't you ask for my opinion? Hey, isn't it good to invite you to eat and drink for free? Remember to bring a dance partner. Su Mang patted her on the shoulder. This one seems to be not as good as the one just now. Change your clothes. I will wait for you outside. After saying this, the door of the bathroom was closed. He could vaguely see Su Mang's figure standing outside, nagging him to change his clothes. Looking at his swift and decisive manner, he was truly worthy of being the person that Ling Dongming had groomed back then. Ling Han raised a helpless smile at the corner of his mouth. He changed his clothes and asked, "What do you think of the assistant I recommended to you before? If she is not suitable, you can give her back to me." Across the door, Su Mang looked down at her newly done nails and said lightly, "Xiao Yu, she is not bad. She is smart and diligent, but her fashion taste is not good." "But didn't you say that you would give Huanyan to me? Why did you change the person in the end? Can't you give her up at the last moment?" When he asked this, there was no sound inside the door for a long time. Su Mang seemed to have expected that he would have such a reaction. She stretched out her fingers painted with black nail polish and slightly bent them. Her knuckles gently knocked on the glass door. "Hey, every time I mention Yi Huanyan, you have this attitude. What happened to you in the last half year? Do you have something in your mind?" Rip. The frosted door was opened. A strong chest suddenly appeared in front of Su Mang. "Damn. I was scared to death." She patted her chest and her attention was immediately attracted by the suit. "This wine-red one is more suitable. There are too many black suits in your closet. You'd better wear something brighter for this kind of dinner party. Anyway, you are good-looking, so you can wear anything." Ling Han lowered his head and pulled the white shirt in the cuff of the suit. "Well, this one is fine. Wait a minute. There seems to be something wrong." Su Mang took 2 steps back. She touched her chin and frowned. "Wait a minute." She walked out of the office as she spoke. Not long after, she pulled Yi Huanyan over from the secretary's office. She pointed at Ling Han, looked up at Yi Huanyan, and asked, "What do you think of this outfit? Is there anything you want to change?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "Sister Su Mang, are you asking me?" "Yes, I'm asking you." Su Mang touched his chin and nodded. He looked serious. Yi Huanyan followed her gaze and looked at Ling Han. He was dressed in a wine-red suit, which made him look tall and slender. He wore a pair of black leather shoes under his cropped pants, which exposed his ankles and made his legs look even more slender. However, his upper body seemed a little off. "Why don't you change your white shirt into a black half-turtleneck sweater?" Yi Huanyan suggested hesitantly. Su Mang stared at Ling Han and thought for a while. Then, he suddenly clapped his hands. "Right, it's this shirt. It's so strange to match a white shirt. Ling Han, what do you think?" Seeing Su Mang's meaningful eyes, Ling Han's face tightened. He coughed for no reason and said, "Whatever." Su Mang blinked at Yi Huanyan and immediately said, "Well, since Secretary Yi said so, that's it. I'll go back and find you a black sweater. Then, I'll ask Xiao Yu to send it to you." Yi Huanyan waved his hand. No. "Well, I'll go to your office to get it after work. I can take the sweater home and wash it first. He doesn't wear clothes that haven't been washed." Before she could finish speaking, she seemed to have realized something and abruptly stopped speaking. Her expression stiffened as she looked at Ling Han, wishing she could bite her own tongue. "You don't have to work overtime today. After work, you go to Sister Su Mang's company with me to get the clothes." A cold voice sounded in the office, making Yi Huanyan show a trace of surprise on his face. The obvious concern in Ling Han's words made Su Mang show an ambiguous expression on his face. Yi Huanyan froze on the spot for a few seconds and pursed his lips. "That's it. After work, I'll pack up in advance and wait for President Ling's sister Su Mang. You can talk with President Ling slowly. I'll go to work first." In Su Mang's eyes, he looked like he was fleeing in panic. She smiled slightly. After Yi Huanyan left, Su Mang glanced at Ling Han. "You are quite lucky to meet Yi Huanyan, a silly girl who only knows how to think about others." Such an evaluation could be regarded as a high evaluation from the sharp and sharp-tongued fashion demoness Su Mang. Ling Han raised his eyebrows with a look of disagreement. He took off his wine-red suit jacket, unbuttoned 2 buttons of his shirt, exhaled slowly, and then walked in the direction of the office desk. He said lightly, "Is she silly?" "Isn't she?" Su Mang turned his head and asked. "She takes good care of your life in every possible way. She is also a professional woman, but she still indulges you in food, clothing, housing, and transportation. Even a full-time nanny doesn't do that. Are you satisfied? Besides, is it convenient for you to go home from work to my place? The girl you gave me probably said a lot of bad things about me behind my back in front of her. Huan Yen is reluctant to let her best friend run around again. She is so kind." Speaking of Ji Xiaoye, Su Mang sighed. He was a little disappointed. Ling Han's eyes fell on the slightly shaking office door, and there was a trace of inexplicable warmth in his heart. Looking back, he saw Su Mang's meaningful eyes. He coughed twice and deliberately ignored the key points in Su Mang's words when he spoke. "Why? You are very strict to Ji Xiaoye. She has suffered a lot, right?" "Aha." Su Mang sat down on the sofa with his arms crossed. "It's okay. In order to help her lose weight, I cut off her lunch at noon and let her squat in the studio to watch the models shooting." Ling Han nodded, showing a non-committal look. He didn't care about the development of Ji Xiaoye in the new company. After all, she was working under Su Mang. Even a good-for-nothing could be trained by Su Mang to become an elite member of Fengshang magazine. If she couldn't bear it and went back to pleasure, he didn't care about keeping such an idle person in the company. Picking up the teacup on the desk and taking a sip, Ling Han suddenly saw the trash can out of the corner of his eyes. When he saw the takeaway box of the Hong Kong-style tea restaurant, there seemed to be a trace of information in his mind. Gradually, a beautiful and sweet face beside the coffee table at noon came to his mind. She explained to him in a hurry, "I had lunch with Xiao Yu." Thinking of this, his eyes deepened a little, and his voice suddenly became a little dull. "Sister Su Mang, at noon today, did you also let Ji Xiaoye go to the studio to watch the models?" A careless voice came from the sofa. Su Mang didn't find the change of Ling Han's mood. "Of course. Not even for a day. Don't you find that this girl's figure is much better than when you gave her to me?" Ling Han frowned gradually. The blue veins on the back of the hand holding the teacup were a little obvious. Liars were truly detestable. Chapter 128. 5 minutes before leaving work, Yi Huanyan began to pack her things. Xiao Dong looked up from the computer desk and looked at her in surprise. "Sister Yi, why are you leaving so early today?" "Yes." Yi Huanyan looked back at her and smiled. "You look so happy. Are you on a date?" Hearing this, Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback and did not reply. The door of the president's office opposite was wide open. Ling Han was wearing a black suit and a gray cashmere coat in his hand. He glanced at the secretary's office. "President Ling." Xiao Dong stood up immediately and looked at Ling Han nervously. Yi Huanyan threw the hand cream into her bag in a hurry. "Give me 2 minutes. Secretary Yi, don't you need to work overtime today?" Ling Han's tone was indifferent. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened and asked hesitantly. "Didn't I go with you to Fengshang to get your clothes?" "Oh. Is there such a thing? I had too much work in the afternoon and forgot." He lowered his head and adjusted the cuffs of his suit with a cold face. "But I have something to do, so you can take a taxi yourself. You can ask the finance department for reimbursement." Looking at his leaving figure, Yi Huanyan pursed her lips and could not help but grip the strap of her handbag tightly. Xiao Dong asked in a low voice beside her. "I heard from Xiao Zhang from the assistant group that Shang Anren was injured and hospitalized. President Ling got off work so early today. Are you going to the hospital?" "Ah." Yi Huanyan did not react and looked at Xiao Dong in a daze. "You said Shang Anren was injured? I heard that because of the renovation, she was hit in the leg by a heavy object." Sister Yi, don't you know? Xiao Dong blinked. The dullness in Yi Huanyan's eyes deepened, and her chest tightened. Lanjiang City, Lanjiang University-affiliated hospital. Shang Anren was lying on the bed with one leg in a cast hanging on the frame. Her face was pale, and she gasped when she moved slightly. What happened? Ling Han had just arrived. As soon as he entered the room, he sat on the sofa. His concerned expression was not obvious. Shang Anren guiltily glanced at Xiao Mu and said sheepishly, "It's nothing major. It's just that I was bored today, so I strolled around the courtyard and ended up getting smashed by a ladder." Ladder? Ling Han glanced at Xiao Mu. "It's a ladder." Xiao Mu creased her brows. The workers in charge of digging the pool didn't put away the tools properly yesterday. The ladder was placed against the wall. Miss Shang didn't notice it when she walked into the backyard and was hit in the leg by the fallen ladder. "Did the doctor say anything?" "The doctor said that the cast will heal faster, but I'm afraid the cast can't be removed before the new year. We'll have to wait until after the new year." Xiao Mu sighed. When she caught a glimpse of her leg in a cast from the corner of her eyes trembled. A hint of impatience flashed in Ling Han's eyes. "Just leave the decoration work to the decoration team. Why are you joining in the fun?" Shang Anren was slightly stunned and lowered his head, looking very wronged. "I'm just afraid that the decoration team will break the things at home. Han, I didn't do it on purpose." Shang Anren felt more and more indignant at the thought of the charity banquet hosted by Feng Shang next Saturday. He had carefully prepared for so long just to attend the banquet with Ling Han to solidify his status. Now that his leg was injured like this, how could he still have the face to attend? Xiao Mu helped to explain. Ling Han seemed to be in a bad mood today. He sat absent-mindedly for a while before getting up and leaving the ward. Looking at Ling Han's back, Xiao Mu turned around and glanced at Shang Anren. "It's good that he's gone. Otherwise, you'll expose yourself if you say too much." Shang Anren's heart tightened. He avoided Xiao Mu's gaze and stammered, "What expose? What expose can I have?" Xiao Mu sat on the chair beside the bed and picked up an apple to peel. She sneered, "The ladder that was placed in the pool is leaning against the wall for no reason? And it's facing the locked window on the second floor. Isn't it too much of a coincidence? Also, I've fired that worker. Starting tomorrow, a new renovation team leader will take over. You don't have to worry about exposing yourself in the future." Shang Anren looked embarrassed. He pursed his lips and looked at Xiao Mu. "Since you're willing to help me cover it up, why can't you just tell me the truth? What's in that room?" Xiao Mu's left index finger and thumb held the two ends of the apple. The fruit knife in her hand made a beautiful arc, and a perfect peeled apple soon appeared in front of Shang Anren. "Most of the time, don't be curious about what others don't want to show you. This kind of thing will either hurt the owner of the thing or hurt you. You know what you want. Don't you understand this principle? I'm just curious." The cut apple pieces fell from the white porcelain plate one by one. Xiao Mu's voice was sincere and gentle. "Everyone has their own white moonlight in their heart, which others can't enter. You think that the more you know, the more you can understand this person and enter this person's heart. In fact, it's not true. Just like the fired renovation team leader, he knew too much but didn't gain our trust. Instead, he was directly expelled." Shang Anren's face turned cold. "You're saying that if I knew what was in that room, Ling Han would let me leave? That was impossible." Xiao Mu put the cut apple on the table in front of Shang Anren and handed her a fork. His face was still calm. "Don't think too much. After all, you didn't do anything. Eat some apple." Looking at Xiao Mu's calm face, Shang Anren was frightened by his words just now. She seriously thought about the possibilities that Xiao Mu said and seriously estimated her weight in Ling Han's heart. Was the so-called white moonlight really sacred and inviolable for him? What was in that room? Xiao Mu stuffed the fork into her hand and looked at her with a softer look. In the villa of Jinjiang Park. When Yi Huanyan went to Fengshang to get clothes, She was dragged by Su Mang to have a vegetarian dinner. When she got home, it was already dark, and there was a faint light in the villa. When she opened the door, only a floor lamp beside the sofa was lit in the living room. Ling Han was sitting on the sofa with his back to the porch. Yi Huanyan looked over his shoulder and saw that he was holding a financial newspaper in his hand. Hearing the noise, Ling came out of her bedroom. "Miss Yi, you're back. Have you had dinner?" "Yes." Yi Huanyan talked to her while secretly looking in the direction of Ling Han. "Do you want to have some supper?" Ling asked. "No need." Seeing that Yi Huanyan was so absent-minded, Ling followed her gaze and looked in the direction of the sofa. She understood something and lowered her voice. "Well, Miss Yi, young master came back early today, but he didn't seem to be in a good mood. He didn't speak and didn't eat dinner. Do you want to persuade him?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. When she handed the coat to Ling, she looked up and saw that the clock on the wall was pointing to 10:30. He hadn't eaten dinner yet at this time. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.